All right, we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to CLS After Dark here on the third rock from the sun, that big blue marble where two stranded astronauts just safely returned a little over a week ago. And not only were they met by human beings to help get them out of the water, but an awesome pod of dolphins. I mean, why we're not talking about that stuff. And maybe I'm doing the intro to kind of highlight, some of the achievements of mankind, because a lot of tonight's episode is going to be about how they hate you, and they do. And, we're not going to make it. I don't want this to come across right off the beginning. I don't want this to sound like, oh, we're just going to sit and bitch about, big government and everything. And there's a lot to bitch about. There really is. I think I've got my personal solution. I haven't had a chance to talk to Blackbeard yet. I talked to P-Rick a little bit. He'll be joining us in a couple minutes. But, there are solutions to this. And at the end of the day, the point I'm just going to try to make tonight is I'm going to, I don't want to say I'm challenging everybody. I'm just going to throw it out there. We're going to use some, main headline events that are taking place in the world around us right now. And I'm going to try to use those as a way to highlight, we're all in this together. And, if you really think someone's going to come and save you, or the government's going to take care of this or whatever, you're probably, I've got a bridge to nowhere to sell you, right? Type of thing. So that's kind of what we're going to go. Patrick just jumped in. Patrick, can you hear me down there, sir? I can't hear you. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. When you're ready, P-Rick, just give me a thumbs up. And then we got a couple little comments here. We got Gene with the woo, Henner Ben, Minnesota, Snowshoe Dave checking in from Michigan. Gene is giving you a big heads up there, Blackbeard. Good evening, Pyramid Pirate. And then we got Mike in the woods with a big aloha. All right, Mike, good to see you here, everybody. P-Rick, are you ready for me to bring you on the stage yet? Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. There. Now we're live with P-Rick. All right. Pro-American, right? Or pro-freedom. I'm just like, as P-Rick likes to say, if you like freedom, if you love freedom, we love you. And so I guess maybe that's a great way to kind of just start jumping right into it. This isn't about politics. I really honestly don't think any live stream we've done or any of the conversations I've ever had, in the past are really even political. This is just a pretty middle of the road, and P-Rick came up with it. If you love freedom, we love you. And that's all I'm trying to do. And I guess before we get into the meat and potatoes, I should just say this early on. So I'll do a standalone video and post it on my social media. But I'm taking all of next week off from social media. I've got a couple standalone videos I'll post, but no live stream on Monday, no Loadout Live, no Cialis After Dark next Thursday, no live streams or any of that. Like I said, I'll have a couple videos that I'll just release, kind of gear videos. And some of this might become a little bit more apparent as we, go through the conversation tonight. But, I'm assuming I'm not that different from so many other people. I just need to step away from it for a little bit, and some of the reasoning behind that will come out here, I'm pretty sure, tonight. But I just need to step away from it for a little bit, clear my mind, kind of ground myself, and then, and then, maybe get back on point and get back on focus. Because we'll see. But I'm hope you enjoy this, whether you're with us live or if you watch us on demand. And I hope this conversation we're about to enter into gets your, brain juices flowing and gets you starting to think and question some things and look around and say, yeah, hey, how come that is? And what about this? And I don't mean like a what about-ism, but it's a fair adult table conversation. So here, one of the things we're going to talk about is the Epstein files. How is it that no one actually cares that Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail for trafficking children, right? There's a crime. The crime was she did sex trafficking of minors to adults. She's in jail for this, and no one else is. How can there be a crime? If there weren't people that the minors were being trafficked to, how is there a crime? And that is, for some reason, has become a weird, I don't even understand how that's even controversial, right? Like, hey, show us the list, or it's a two-tiered system of justice, and that'll come out in tonight's conversation. We got a couple different topics that we're going to use to try to encapsulate this. I just mentioned the Epstein files. We're going to talk about Corona, Doge, the violence against Tesla owners, and the VA is where we were going to start. I'm not sure if we're going to get Tom on here. I haven't heard from him. So So, but we'll just kind of go there. Fellas, as always, everybody's probably seen you before, but, we just like to be fair and polite. So, if you can, Blackbeard, first of his name, Pyramid Pirate, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll come down to P-Rick, and then we'll jump right into it.
Well, I used to be an obtainer of rare antiquities, usually buried at the base of ziggurats, but after encountering more than one curse, ancient and powerful, I realized that this wasn't a path forward for me in my life, and I decided to become a pseudo-archaeologist and to share my entirely unqualified opinions whenever I'm asked on the internet.
Well said, sir. And by the way, if you don't know this, but Blackbeard is obviously bullshitting on a lot of things right there if you haven't seen him before. So strap in. That's what. Oh, and I guess the other thing, I don't think you really even drink. So it's not like he's already starting this podcast.
I'm going to drink water, but give me a second. I'm going to take a little sip here out of the. Oh, I'm glitching, but yeah, I'm going to just take a sip. This is how I normally get my bottle out. So,
boys and girls, he is matrixing out here as we talk. Yeah, there you go. He's glitching in and out.
My CLS gear scout carrier available at clsgear.com.
All right. All right. Well, on that note, now you have a better sense of who Blackbeard is if you haven't seen him before. Let's come down to P-Rick. P-Rick, you are muted, by the way, sir. There you go. Yep. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I can't match up to that. So I've been on the show several times. I'm just a run-of-the-mill guy, former Marine. I guess once a Marine, always a Marine. So I still am. Army, infantry, intel, that type of thing. Law enforcement, patrol, narcotics, SWAT, and then time at CIA as a GRS officer.
There you go. There you go. And Patrick owes me some money. We've known each other for a very long time. So he owes me a couple drinks someplace.
Somewhere.
And then I just see two comments coming in. One was about Prince Andrew. And then Gene saying he needs a scout. I happen to know somebody, Gene, who makes those products. So, we'll do what we can. All right. Hey, we're going to kind of jump right into it. And I mean this very seriously. Everybody in the chat. Well, actually, before I get that, let me just say it one more time. Next week, no live streams. No Monday. No loadout on Monday. No CLS After Dark next Thursday. I might post one or two videos that we've already previously shot that, just so we can have some content. I'm not going to post on Twitter or X or Instagram, just taking a week off, just kind of, and I hope, and maybe that'll be one of the, possible recourses or outcomes, from tonight's conversation. And, maybe you do the same thing. Maybe everybody needs just to recharge and ground themselves and then take a step back, take a look around them and ask them where the real priorities are and how to stay, get back on track. And I ain't giving you life skills or any of that kind of stuff. Don't take it that way. I didn't mean it that. But so as we kind of jump into this, we're just going to kind of be free flowing. If you've got a comment in the chat, if you want us to talk about a specific subject or how, or if you want to provide a little bit more evidence of how they hate you. And boys and girls, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, whatever your political system in your country is. This isn't a political conversation. My baseline argument is that at larger levels, matter of fact, here, I'll just put this up as a banner. Let me see if I can find it. Right here, right? This is what I'm saying here, right? We're entering, in my humble opinion, as we get into this, we're entering into an era of humanity. And you can do your own research. You can say lizard people. I'm sure somebody will say lizard people or, whatever you want to do. But like, there clearly are powers at work trying to control who we are, what we do, what we consume, what we consider to be normal, what we consider to be rational. I kind of am that more objective person. I am a Christian. I've got my faith that also helps guide me. But I also have just like, the dots on the wall and the common sense. No, that's actually, you just said that, Senator so-and-so, or no, that's not the same thing. Like, for example, on the Tesla, there's a lot of people coping right now. What about ism? Well, what about conservatives who went and, destroyed Bud Light? It's not the same thing, They went. And so if you think about it, They went and bought Bud Light with their money. They went and bought Bud Light. That's still putting money into Bud Light as a company. Then they took it to their private property or whatever, and then they destroyed it. That is not the same thing as going and vandalizing somebody else's property, or, you know, whether it's their car or torching a, you know, a dealership. Not anywhere in the same category. Don't even try to make that argument. You got to do better than that, right? And destroying somebody else's property, if we believe in the Constitution, if we believe in our, you know, our freedoms, right? Our big God-given, you know, big R God-given rights. You know, as I said the other night, somebody's going to get smoked. There's going to be like somebody is going to catch somebody in the act of vandalizing their property, and it's going to turn sideways really quickly, and someone's going to get hurt. I mean, you know, we've got people firebombing dealerships. So this is the era we're in right now. And then as I have, you know, this thing up on the government, kind of a famous quote, you know, the question is like, you know, if you think the government is coming to save you, I just don't think that's the case. So for me, even though a lot of this might sound like we're just griping about stuff, you know, I think the ultimate argument, and I'm going to put that up front, is it highlights the necessity for each and every one of us to have a network, to have a community, to have some type of faith, to have some North Star, a guiding principle, and find other like-minded people who can help you through the tough times and be a member of your community, right? Because that's where it's going to really ultimately be decided. I wish we would have had Redbeard on here. Redbeard, why aren't you here right now? Why don't you call me up, not knowing we're doing a live stream like you did last time, Redbeard, and we'll get you on here to talk about the Constitution. But all right, all right, boys, on that, without getting into some of the very specific topics, you know, that I sent you guys, tonight was the very first show where I've ever done quote unquote show notes and sent them out to everybody. But before we do that, let me just shut up and let you guys chime in on just the big, you know, 600-foot picture here so far. Blackbeard, why don't we just go around the horn? Blackbeard, let's start with you, and we'll come back down to P. Rick.
So what are you asking for my assessment of?
No, just like, you know, for the intro of the topic at hand, what's your big pictures, you know, taking a step back before we get into the actual nitty gritty and the details, you know, the specific examples, just, you know, what do you think? Is this even just a stupid conversation, or is this important, or what are Blackbeard? What are the ideas of Blackbeard, first of his name, the Pyramid Pirate?
Well, for me, one of the more important things to consider is human psychology. And I'm definitely not an expert on that or really anything, but I know that, you know, you made a comparison, which are the acts of vandalism and destruction on dealerships, and then you compared it to Bud Light boycotts. And you said they're not the same, and I mean, sure, that's obvious, right? But that's not the way that they will look. The opposition, the people that are destroying things, that's not the way that they will look at it. Because, you know, one of the things that I learned is that, and it was a presuppositional belief for a long time, that human beings are fundamentally rational creatures, and we are not. We are not rational. What we do is that we make decisions a priori, which is to say beforehand, and then we use reason as a cover to justify the decisions we've already made from an emotional perspective. So what that means is that I think that's one of the reasons that you had a guy like Yuri Bezmenov say, you know, it's, you can show them proof documents right to their face, and they won't believe it until a boot kicks in the door. And the reason is because, and that's true of us too, by the way. You know, you say it's not political, but it kind of is if you're discussing things like law and policy. I mean, you get there, right? So all I would say is that, you know, trying to understand them from a reason perspective, you know, the propaganda doesn't work on reason for a reason. There's a reason behind the reasonlessness of propaganda, and it's because it targets something that's more instinctual. Because, and that was one of Freud's, you know, Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, created propaganda. I mean, he didn't create it, but he wrote the book on it, and he essentially established the 20th century consumer purchasing, you know, locus of society. That was him. And based on those theories, and the theories were that there were subconscious motivations that drove people, and that those were more powerful, and again, subconscious. So what's that mean? What that means is what it sounds like, what the word says. It's like, it's kind of like I liken it to vision. And if I'm being long-winded, just shut me up. But you
Nope,
started me on
you're
it.
going
Okay.
good.
So I liken it to vision because our field of vision is actually very narrow. And then we have peripheral vision, which is quite wide, but the acuity, like the visual fidelity and what we're able to focus on. So then I think it's something like, don't quote me on this, but I think it's something like 3% of the visual field. It's very small. It's very small. And so our mind operates in a similar way, in that this our subconscious mind will take in all of this information and has these drives within it. And then our conscious mind acts as like a filter on that, and it focuses on any, a small number of things at any given time. And that's why, for example, subliminal messages, this isn't meant to be all about propaganda. It's just about the human psychological motivations that bring about the situations that we're in. So why are they blowing up stuff? Well, there's probably a lot of reasons for that. I'm not a mind reader, so it'd be speculative. But the point is that there is no reasoning out of this or into it. So is this discussion valuable? Not from a perspective of reason. I would say if you're trying to change people's minds, if that's your goal, if you're just trying to like elucidate what's happening and bring it into focus for yourself so that you can gain understanding, then I think that the discussion has value.
All right. There's something to digest and chew on, everybody. P. Rick?
Yep. I like the direction you went with that. I think from what I've seen, especially in law enforcement, people that commit crimes, from petty crimes all the way up to like serious like capital offense type stuff. There's always some kind of pivotal moment or point where they feel justified in doing what they're doing, right? Whether they justify it to themselves, whether they plan it out, premeditated, if it's in the heat of the moment, so on and so forth, right? So when you look at like, hey, what is propaganda? Propaganda is it's a psychological operation tool that's used to move a large segment of the population to some end state, right? I think what we're seeing now, and we've been seeing this, right? Probably, I mean, I think COVID was a big watershed moment in history because people were forced in a lot of situations to stare at their screens, right? Hey, I'm locked in, I might as well connect with the world and stare at this screen. Well, the forces that be in marketing, government, and that's not just our government, it's nation states that don't really care about the United States, like China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, folks like that, saw this as like a learning lab. Hey, let's see what we can push out there and see what happens. What have you got going right now with the riots at universities? So those things were out of control. Oh, pro-Palestine. Well, how many people you actually were in that movement? And I use that term loosely. On October 5th. Was it there, or what drove them to that? What's the force driving that? So I think people can go in any direction that they feel justified in going. There's an old saying that belief is power, and you think about that in terms of what we face in the global war on terror. Hey man, when you got some of these jihadis that are willing to sacrifice their lives or just go down in a ball of flame, hey, all right, well that's a pretty strong belief. In my mind it's evil, but it's a belief nonetheless. So we're seeing that now, and I think that when we get I don't know if we're gonna if you guys want to get spiritual or whatnot, but on this, like I think we're really seeing more and more the face of evil rearing its head, because each one of us is capable of great things. We're also capable of evil. Which way are you led?
I think this conversation, if we're going to try to be positive and provide any type of solutions or just talk about things that might ease the pain, so to speak, spirituality's got to be a big part of that. So, for whomever, don't shy away from including that in the conversation tonight. I mean, that's going to be one of my things. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Like, just going back to like, Mark, why are you taking next week off? And I'm like, no, I need to get grounded again. I need to refocus. I need to get grounded. I need to get right with my God and my belief system and my faith, and look at this from as, I don't want to say neutral, but as, an apolitical kind of selfish, perspective as possible. I need to make sure I'm not neglecting my friends, the people I love and care about, and my community that I should love and care about, and and my own spirituality and my own, like my own path that I'm on in life. So I don't think we should shy away from it, boys, at all. If you guys want to go down that road, let's go down that road. I don't think, in other words, I don't think we can talk about any of this without talking and including some spirituality. Matter of fact, and because P. Rick, you just did it, why don't we just jump ahead a little bit? Why don't we just start with Corona right now? Like, again, the title is "They Hate You." So I guess I'm just going to point out, don't take my word for it, as always, right? Go do your own research. Hopefully you're not doing mainstream media. Mainstream media is going to be one of the topics we're going to talk about in the "They Hate You" category as well. But look at how many people are now suddenly, oh yeah, I guess ivermectin could have worked, or does work, or, and again, we're not doctors. We're not giving you medical advice. Screw you, screw tube. That's not what we're doing. We're having an adult table conversation here. We can show clips and films, and that's fair use. But no, I mean, if you look and see the information that's now finally, quote unquote, finally starting to come out, and how many people in mainstream society, mainstream media, social figures, political figures are trying to memory hole things. Oh, we never said that. I never talked about that. Yeah, you did. Here's the clip. Here's 10 clips of you doing exactly that. And that kind of goes into our previous conversation. I can't remember if that was like 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. Accountability. There were your neighbors were, people in your community were physically accosting people in the grocery store for, coming down the same aisle as them, or not wearing a mask. And again, our leaders, our quote unquote leaders, everybody knew this from the very get-go. And now it's starting to come out how much they distorted, misled, withheld. You probably don't hate the media and your elected officials enough. They intentionally created this situation. Now, that can go into why did they do that? I don't know if we want to try to answer those questions tonight, boys. I think it's just simply, because that's subjective, right? Can we find an objective? They did it for these reasons. Well, only if they came out and said it. And some people have in our government and our elected officials and our quote unquote trust the science type of people. Some of them have come out and made it very clear what they were really trying to do. They've also come out and admitted that, yeah, we had no clue. We just made that shit up. So, I mean, if we want to just use that as our first, dipping our toes into the water to see how warm the water is, let's just talk about that. I don't think, again, if there is, and maybe it's just inadvertently was a great place to start. They hate you. They don't care. Great. You're on their side and you're saying, you got to trust the science and you got to do this, that, and the other thing. But they didn't give a shit if you died as a result of their failed policies and their stupidity. They're not being held accountable. Fellas, you guys want to jump in on that anywhere? Whomever. So using Corona, can we use Corona as an example of saying the powers that be? Now, whether you, again, guys watching at home or on demand later, now, is that the deep state? You call it whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it people who found themselves in a position of power, get drunk on the power, and then realize they have an opportunity to even coalesce and gain even more power. And it's all about them, the narcissist. It's not about taking care of the community. That's where I'm kind of going with that. Whoever wants to jump in. Patrick?
Yep. Okay. I should have probably given my little disclaimer at the beginning. So
yeah,
I'm still employed by the United States government in a couple of capacities. So, the opinions expressed tonight are mine and mine alone and do not represent those of the Department of Homeland Security, the Defense Department, or the CIA. So there you go. That's out of the way. I think Corona was a game changer. I think, when you start looking at, that kind of encompasses propaganda too, right? So the government, jumped into this, hey, lock everything down. You started to see local governments, and then, when we talk about governments, because a lot of times we're looking at national news, international news, we tend to think of the federal government. Well, we can't ever discount local governments because those are the ones that really put things into action that impact us on a more daily basis, right? And that goes like state, county, local government. What you started to see, at least I started to see in the Midwest, is a lot of different governors and the mayors and some of the towns taking their emergency power to lock their constituents down, close businesses, and then strangely enough, some businesses were allowed to open, like large grocery stores, Home Depot. Why is that? Is there less of a a biological threat in those locations than it is in the mom and pop, grocery store or a hardware store or, what have you, restaurant? I mean, that's absolutely insane. But they took it and they ran with it, and they ruined a lot of people's lives. I think COVID in a lot of ways broke people. What I mean by that is people got used to, I'm staring at this screen. It was almost like a conditioning tool to say, hey, I have to see what's on the screen. What are they telling me? They being the government. What are they telling me? 6 feet. I'll put this mask on, this, that, and the other. And then you started to see, yeah, like you said, little old ladies in grocery stores, like chewing people out because they weren't, they were within 6 feet, or somebody's mask was, not covering their nose and whatnot. Yeah, beards sticking. Oh my God.
Well, no, that's where the mask was. It was a chin. Just like everybody was wearing it on their chin. I mean,
yeah. What's the point? It became like a check the box bullshit thing that you had to do to get into a business. So there's a case in point. And then I think we brought this up before. I think if people haven't seen this, or if you guys haven't seen it, it's worth watching. There's a documentary on Netflix called Ordinary Men. And what it focuses on is these normal German police officers. They got pulled into the whole, we're going to, handle, Jewish detainees, so to speak. And then we're going to go from that, just like this low level, hey, we're going to take them into custody. We're taking them out of their homes, to delivering them to mass murder and then participating in some of that mass murder. What is the psychological process that you can put somebody in to do that? And when you see it, it's obviously very frightening, but there's also some of that in every single person that doesn't have critical thinking skills that will follow those rules and guidance from a faceless government. That's the scary part. So to sit back on the high horse and say, hey, that I would never do that. Well, I mean, think about it deeply. What would it take to make you do something like that? If you're willing to dime out your neighbors because they're outside, having a meal together in close proximity, which happened all over the place, or chastising people in a store for not standing 6 feet apart, there's some of that right there. It shows that that's still alive and well. It's a human condition.
There's something you just said, and I'm trying to find it. It was shared over in the CLS After Dark chat, and I want to bring that up for something later. But Blackbeard, let's go over to you on that while I try to find this thing. It's going to come in. It's really more about media, but it echoes what P. Rick just said, and we all saw this happening, again, and so we were all compliant. We all just did it. Like, yeah, I was trying to make a mockery of it, it was totally unconstitutional, against the law, I remember, I took one of my ghillie, my sniper veils, cut a little geisha girl thing out of it. That's not the right one. Like a belly dancer thing. Took some shock cord, the stuff I use on my hanging tags, just made a loop out of it, so I could have it on, and the shock cord made it easy. And it was just it's a ghillie suit type of thing. It's got huge, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch holes in it. No one gave a shit because I had something on my face, and that's all that mattered. And I'm like, oh my God, Blackbeard, go ahead, sir.
Oh, where to begin?
At the beginning.
COVID, I think one of the things that Patrick said that stood out the most to me is that the coronavirus pandemic broke people. And that's true. That's obviously true. But it's true in two directions, at least. It broke people's, and I think what it also did too, before I get into that, is it brought to the surface.
What are you doing?
Sorry, I was just trying to find that video that I talked about. Yeah, I thought I had my phone on mute. I'm listening. Good. So, yep, go ahead.
It brought to the surfaces the qualities that were already under the surface in people. And so, for example, I see people, and I run into people on a consistent basis now, almost a daily basis, really, that are like, Yeah, the pandemic really woke me up. I realize now all these different scams that are being run, basically, like from, I mean, obviously the pharmaceutical industry, but government and corporations and so forth. And for me, I'm not trying to be like, hey, look at me, but I mean, I've been like this for decades, at this point, almost several decades. And so for me, it's kind of weird seeing the people come in fresh to kind of regaining a sense. I'm not saying I couldn't be conned, okay? The minute you think you can't get conned, you're going to get conned. But kind of just developing a little shrewdness, because the system seems to be structured in such a way that it makes everyone naive buffoons. And I'm not trying to be mean to everybody in saying that, but let's be real. Like, that's its intention, at least. And on some people, it really clicks in. And then other people's, you get shaken out of your coma. And for me, 9/11 was that thing that shook me out of my coma. So I needed it too. Okay. I was a total chump. And I'm probably still a chump in a lot of ways, but I was a total chump until that happened. It was a catalyst. And COVID was a catalyst for many people as well, to bring them out of their comas and start to see. So the people that had any chance of ever even beginning to hope to think critically, that was a great catalyst for those people to really push them over the edge into a measure of sanity, or in some cases insanity, because you can take it too far. Everybody overshoots the mean, but you'll come back. I'm just letting you know, if COVID broke you, you will come back to the mean. But for other people, that are just under the cover of that, under the spell, it really is a spell, I believe, in a very literal sense. um they were never going to get it. If you I don't mean to be mean, but if you haven't gotten it now, you're never going to get it. Like, what more do you need? I don't know what more could happen to help you to get it. So it was a separating, to go to a spiritual place. It was a separating of the wheat from the chaff in a certain measure. Okay. But the system also was able to sift people, both in terms of their character, but also in terms of their political purity, their obeisance to the state religion. So the way that I look at this is that, and people will in government will tell you this, that the United States is a secular government, right? So, well, what does that mean? Secular means it doesn't have a state religion technically, but really in practice, what it means is there's not supposed to be a religion at all. But there is a religion, and it's called scientism. Scientism is the name of the religion. And what happened is, you swapped out priests for physicians, and you swapped out the black frocks for the white lab coat, and you swapped out the Bible for peer-reviewed studies in various journals, and everything operates as it did, because the reason that human beings have developed these sociological systems throughout time isn't because they just felt like, hey, we're bored. They serve vital functions. They're there for a reason. And so when you create a power vacuum by destroying the validity of God in the hearts and minds of people, that vacuum will be filled. It doesn't just disappear. It's like, oh, we're over that now. It's like, if you don't believe in God, or any God, or any spirituality of any kind, like, because you don't have, there are people that are, like Buddhism walks kind of a weird line of atheism even in itself. But um you will supplant it with something else, so it becomes self worship in action, if not in name. Okay. So what we had then is that these were all ritualistic purity tests, is what was
Yep.
happening. So the mass becomes a sacrament. It is a sacrament. And if you don't show your obeisance and your loyalty to the state religion, which is it, and it is a blending of state and government and corporations, because, just on a quick side note, what the government understood and understands, and it's well beyond mature at this point, is that, yes, there, in as Jeremy could well cover, there are limitations on government. And there are limitations on private businesses and corporations, public businesses as well. There are limitations, but those limitations are not the same. They're not the same. And so what you do is you create things like public-private partnerships, or you create non-governmental organizations, even at an international level, and then you're able to exercise state influence through private entities. And what you're essentially doing is, just like money laundering, you're laundering the use of soft power, sometimes hard power, but you're laundering the use of that power. And so we're in a system now which, whether it's masterminded by something that's profoundly intelligent, or whether it's just through the incentivization structure, it's naturally filters people out. So for example, if you realize that the vaccines are a scam, and you're in the military and they're like, you get it, or you're out of here, you're now faced with a choice. If you're a true believer, it's like, well, easy, right? I'm going to get it because I believe in the state religion. But if you're not, and then they've got you through the monetary system at least, and it becomes a test of your character. Okay. And I'm not trying to malign anybody who bent the knee there, but I'm just saying it's the thoughts go through your heads. Well, I'm the sole breadwinner for my family. Well, what am I going to do? This is all I've ever known. Well, this is what gives me meaning, and so on and so forth. And so it's like, and what happens is the system inherently and naturally filters out for certain kinds of people, and everybody else that could be a problem gets booted out. It was actually, if it wasn't intelligent, is a stroke of just fortune for the power structure that bends the mind, you know. So I hope that I'm going to stop there, but and I think I've given probably enough to kind of cover, but that's kind of where I see things with that.
I think that was very well said, and I would actually challenge people to go up and just consider what fascism really is, and then replay Blackbeard's just last comments, and then take it from there. Patrick, do you want to make any addition, or we'll go wherever you want on that same note? Otherwise, I'm going to bring us over to another category, another topic.
Yeah, let's. I mean, that was really well said, man. We could stay on that one for the rest of the night, because I like how Blackbeard put that. But I think we should jump on to the next one for right now.
Okay, well, I'm going to take something Blackbeard said, and it's like, again, look, and we're not being disparaging. People have to make your own decisions, right? And it just kind of is. It was I know people refer to it as the before time, and and if you look at like history, you do before COVID, after COVID, or after crazy, so yeah, lots of things happened, and government, individuals, right? Don't forget, those are individuals. There's not an amorphous, oh, the government did it. No, it's the people in charge, the people we elected or unelected bureaucrats, however you want to say it, made these conscious decisions in the face of science, all in the name of science, as a way to control you. And one of the points that Blackbeard had brought up was the military, because the military, for those of you who haven't been in the military, and I think a lot of our viewers, a lot of, my customers over in Centerline, either our prior service, or they know somebody who is in the military, or, some such thing. So it's not, it's not it's something they're kind of familiar with, but military members are kind of different. I mean, you can see some of our other podcasts, especially when I was talking to Chappie, we're kind of romantics, you believe in something, you want it to be right, and you want to believe in truth and justice. And then somebody comes along and says, hey, you're going to take this shot, again, without even getting into the whole conversation, because we could do it all night long. It wasn't a vaccine. It's not a vaccine, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't do this, you lose your job. And that happened to so many people across so many facets of not just American society, but the global society. Other countries didn't play that game, and, you go do your own research and see how that worked out. Worked out pretty good for those folks. So, I mean, I think honestly, if we were going to go back to the Reckoning podcast, will there ever be a day when we hold our unelected and elected officials accountable for what happened and transpired during that period of time? Probably not. We're already trying to pigeonhole it, memory hole it. We're not talking about it anymore. I'm a small business owner, and there were so many other small business owners who didn't make it out of that process, of that period of time, and they lost their jobs, lost their livelihood. Back to what Patrick said, and then that leverage, that government, that obedience, that that level of control, once they realized they had it, could make people bend the knee. You're going to take this shot, or we're going to kick you out of the military. And honestly, I don't know if people got, and P-Rick, I'm turning this over to you, because maybe you can add to this, because I want to go to the VA next. But when folks who didn't get the jab, did they get dishonorables, or did they get generals? I don't remember what happened.
I don't know what happened to those folks. I mean, I didn't know anybody that went down that path. So, unfortunately, we were all the ones that said, "Oh shit, I don't want to do this," but we're going to have to just to stay, deployable or on our mission or whatever it was we were doing. And yeah, it's a huge regret that I have, and I'm sure a lot of people have.
Well, Murph Nuge, hey Murph, great to have you over here. Thanks for joining the live. But Murph Nuge just made a great comment on that point before we go a little bit too far away from it. And look, and everybody, I apologize. On the After Darks, we don't read every comment, but I'm paying attention to him. But this is a great comment, and I love the irony. His comment is just dripping. Matter of fact, there's so much irony. I could put my wine glass underneath the comment and just fill it up with irony juice instead. But yeah, like, oh, you military people, you just are, just robots, and you just do everything you said. Those were the same people who went lockstep into, hey, get the jabby jab, type of thing. So great point, Murph Nuge. P. Rick, I'm going to turn that back over to you, because, you're, of all of us in our little group, you're the one who's got the more modern, recent, military experiences. So fair statement, again, we're not really talking about people, but you want to add a little bit more to that, and then we're going to go into the VA.
Yeah. So, I've known folks. First off, yeah, I was negatively impacted, by the shot. I know 2 or 3 other people that were negatively impacted. And when I say negatively impacted, I'm referring to hospitalization. So I'm not going to get into that on here, but that's coming down the road with VA. So that's going to be the lead in right there, because it was definitely service connected. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had it done. So. There was also been in the past. I don't know if any of this happened to you, but people that get the yearly flu shot. I've had a couple people claim, hey, sir, I don't want to do this because I have religious belief against getting these things. Okay, so hey, just let the chain of command know, hey, we got somebody who's not going to take it based off of their religion. I don't have any issues with it. Well, lo and behold, somebody up the chain in the medical side of the house had an issue with it. Why? Because it's not checking a box, and they can't say that every single person under their, care got the shot. And it's like, this is just, one folly after another. And that shows how government works. And, being on the inside of it for the bulk of my life, and that, the Marine Corps, the Army, hell, law enforcement's got its own stupid stuff. But on the more federal side, the agency, Department of Homeland Security, everybody's got these things where, hey, must check the box. Everybody gets robotic. Must check the box. This must be done so that we can send this to my supervisor and they can do that. And there's never any understanding, or there's no individual discussion about how this might impact some person or whatever the case is. That's the government with its own people. So when the government's pointed outwards to normal society, how do you think that plays out? And we saw that.
Hey, just got to give a quick shout out for Redbeard, Sentinels of Liberty. He's over here with us right now. Great. He just wanted to drop in and say hi before he looks like he's got a meeting or something tonight with the American Liberty Caucus. He's getting involved in that, and that's pretty awesome. So I just wanted to give Redbeard, and AKA Sentinels of Liberty, a quick shout out. Hey, Redbeard, let us know what you're doing tomorrow night. I've been thinking today was Friday. You can tell where my brain is. I really do hate daylight savings. I'm serious. It's really screwing me up. That's another thing, right? They hate you. Like, man, come on. Can we have real time? Just stop with this nonsense. I can see the sun, but anyway, Sentinel of Liberty, Redbeard, his live stream or his podcast. Hey, leave us a comment and tell us what you're doing tomorrow, and I'll plug that up there for you, Redbeard, if you're still here with us. But P. Rick, back over to you on the VA. Let's kind of go into the VA now, because again, we're just using examples that, and the VA is maybe a little bit more of a selfish thing because, there's not as many veterans as there are, just regular citizens. But I think a lot of the people, like I said, who either, watch the videos or who've purchased from me over at Centerline, we probably have a pretty high percentage of people who either themselves were veterans or somebody in their families was in the military or is in the military. So, so you want to kind of just take us in a little bit into the VA again, from this umbrella of like, they hate you. And I know you've got some stories. Well, here, I'll just start it off. My story is going to be really short because I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to do this. I'll probably talk to Chappie offline. Chappie, if you see this video, you know I'm going to give you a holler and we can sit and do a gummy and sit and talk about this. But I'm just not 100% sure if I want to share all of my personal, like, medical issues with everybody. But I'll just start this part of the conversation to say this. And Patrick has already pointed this out. The VA is still, a government entity, military. And it's more about checking the boxes than it is about, actually care. That's my opinion, right? Some people would argue, I'm just in a really shitty region and my VA sucks where the other VAs are really good. I hope that is truly the case. I hope what I've experienced in my VA is not representative of the VA in other parts of the country or writ large. But my personal experiences, and this is where I'll shut up and bring it over to Patrick. I'm not going to say all the things, but you guys are smart. You can fill in the blanks. On 2 separate occasions in the last 5 years, if I would have followed the VA's advice, I would be dead right now. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yep.
P. Rick knows what I'm talking about. Blackbeard, these are my friends. They kind of know what's been going on with me. But if I would have followed the VA and listened to them, I would be dead. I had people in the VA telling me to shut the F up. It's all, you're just, making it up or it's in your mind or whatever the case is. I've had people in the VA tell me if I don't like it, fuck off and go get civilian insurance, totally disrespecting my 22 plus years in the military. And, to be able to use we all agreed, man, we signed on the dotted line. I was going to let you do this shit to me and, throw me in harm's way. But at the end, on the other end, if I make it through the tunnel, if I, follow the light and I come out the other side, you're going to help me out. You're going to take care of me because I'm old and broken now because of a lot of that stuff. And so that to me was just, I think that's kind of where a lot of this stuff, really started, being solidified in my mind of man, if we're not going to take care of veterans, if we're willing to tell a veteran, if he doesn't like it, he can go get civilian health care. If we're going to yell at a veteran and say it's all in his head, and we've all seen so many horrible, just heartbreaking videos from veterans losing it, how they do their system. I really hope Tom was here. Maybe we'll do another one with Tom and Chappie and we'll identify and address some of these issues. Just even some of the things that the VA has done by moving away, how they even conduct their healthcare as opposed to how civilian hospitals look at, patient management and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's incredibly discouraging and there's no accountability. I've had people yell at me, lie, tell me I'm going to do something. And when they found out they were wrong, then they did their internally. They said, well, he's a difficult person to deal with. No, you were wrong. You were yelling at me, telling me I had to do this when that's not what my doctor ordered. And when you realized your mistake, it was my fault. And everybody locks shields. We'll get into Doge here at some point, and it's my diatribe will end here. That's another place. And Secretary Collins, I'll try to tag you in this video afterwards, but I hope somebody in the VA sees this and I hope this comes to your attention. The VA is another place where, I don't think you realize just how much they don't care about you. And that's not a political statement. Once again, they really just, in my opinion, don't care about you. You try to bring this up to their attention and it's a million excuses and no one ever is held accountable. I'll just say this. I had a stroke about 4 or 5 years ago, apparently a mild one. I didn't even know I had it, but then afterwards and I didn't know this. I was describing a stroke perfectly. So really right now for me, this quadrant of my eye, it's a little blurry up here. That's what happened to me with mine. But as I was describing this, and I realized now that I was describing a stroke perfectly, my doctor just looked at me and said, yeah, just go get an eye exam. So I think they really want you to die. And then my last comment, I guess, because the other thing is oh, so you're in pain. Well, let's give you oxycodone. Let's give you fentanyl. Let's give you a drug that's highly addictive. And I'm just oh, hold it. No, I don't want to take that. Isn't that a fentanyl based drug? Yeah, it kind of, I'm no, it isn't. There is no, it kind of is. Either it is or it isn't. Yeah, it's a fentanyl based drug. Screw you. I'll drink another glass of wine. Yeah, I'm not taking, but that's where that system in my experience, I can only speak for me, and I'll turn it over to P. Rick. Again, man, they hate you. They hate you. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Go ahead, P. Rick.
Yep. So, I'm finishing my military career on the reserve side. So, after 28 years, I was tallying this up as you were talking. I have known, I want to say I'm at like 8 or 9 people that I know worked with that committed suicide. And some of those things were easily diagnosable while they were on active duty. The problem is, like, once people get in the reserves or the National Guard, they're away from their support mechanism, and that's where things can go really bad, because there's nobody they can reach out to on a quick basis. They're not seeing them every day, so nobody can notice the changes that are going on. So that being said, so the military itself is really, really bad about helping its service members out with their medical side. So they're getting better, I think, but or making an effort to. But then again, there's also a lot of waste that goes on in there, because they're bringing in private contracted groups to handle this stuff, and that slows things down. It's just a mess. When it comes to the VA and actually reporting this stuff, there's a saying about the government that goes something like 20% of the people do 80% of the work, and I'd say that's 100. I'd say that's 100% true, right? If we're throwing percentages around, but when you're thinking about that, if you are going to go it on your own, and you're going to take your records to the VA, you're already 80% chance you're not going to get any traction. So 20% is just pure luck. That's why when I started my process, I went through a service that actually charged a fee, and that shouldn't have to happen. But as somebody pointed out to me, one of my peers said, "Hey, if you were going to, if you had to go to court, are you going to represent yourself, or are you going to hire a lawyer? What do you think your better chance of success is?" And I said, "Yeah, you're right." So I did that. And guess what? I've been successful because those people know how to navigate that very complex system to get things done, because a lot of them used to work there. So basically I'm paying former VA employees money to get me, what I should be able to get on my own. But hey, nonetheless, that's how it works. We've got so many people that just they don't know what's available to them. They don't know the process, and then you've got, depending on what state you're in, what area in the state you're in, you've got what's called a VSO, a veteran service officer, who's supposed to be able to kind of like walk you through this stuff. Some of those guys are great. Some of them, again, it's that 80%, 80-20 thing, right? So hopefully you get the 20% that knows what they're doing and can guide you and lead you through that. So when you do the forms and everything else, it's correct, and it's gonna get action. But just in simple terms, one thing I didn't know until literally like a week ago is that when they look at it, they look at 3 things. If you get a note from a doctor, the doctor, instead of just like taking the information down, is supposed to give a diagnosis of, hey, what exactly is this? Like a full written diagnosis. Then they have to talk about follow-on symptoms that could occur because of this. And then they have to like tie that into like some type of connection to your service. That could be done, even if you're out of the military. So let's say, hey, I have I've got flat feet or bad knees because I was carrying body armor, for 10 years in a rucksack and running around on, asphalt, slamming my knees and my back for extended periods of time. So, okay, I've got a bad knee. Okay, well, that's one bad knee. Okay, they'll give you documentation on that. But now, because you've got a bad knee, you're going to start moving differently. Your body's going to try to, accommodate and adapt. And now you might have issues with other parts of your body too. So getting that stuff documented, all this is like completely against what we learn in the military, especially if you're in the combat arms special operations fields, where it's like, hey, we just need you to get back out there and go do the thing. We don't, whatever it takes, just go do that. Suck it up, move on. And that's where, you get this, hey, guys with serious lifelong injuries, because it's, repetitive motion, constant impact, that type of thing. And they never really fix the problem. And to your point, the doctor's throwing around, fentanyl, oxycodone, crap like that. That one of the people I lost had that happen to him. He was an SF guy in the Army, and then he was at the agency with us, and a couple of things happened and he got injured, and he was trying to do pain management. He was an 18 Delta on the SF teams. That's a special operations medic for those that aren't aware of that. And you know what? He was a medic with us, and he started self-medicating, and one thing led to another, and he ended up passing away. That should have been prevented on so many steps along the way to prevent that. But so to kind of wrap this up, that they don't care about you. Like, you better come into this with a little bit of an aggressive mentality, not just critical thinking, but when you're going to get something documented, get it documented to your satisfaction, not just taking it that the guy in the lab coat, as Blackbeard said, writes it down. Okay, here you go. Here's your report. No. I needed to say these things, and that's your right to do, and that's what you should make happen. Otherwise, they're not serving you any purpose whatsoever. I would highly recommend that anybody that's going to go through the VA process that hasn't started it, or, and that's whether if you're in service or out of service, talk to a veteran service officer first, get some, basic, information to guide you. But I would also look at having someone put the pack together for you that knows the process. You might have to pay something out of the pocket, but if you're at 0% and you get zero, well, that's a waste of your time, right? So if I've got to pay 20% of whatever I get from the VA to some service, well, I wouldn't have had that money anyway. So that's the way I looked at it. It's a horrible process. Hopefully it gets fixed and streamlined, but that 20% of the people doing 80% of the work, that needs to be rectified yesterday, because we're losing veterans as a result of this, because these things add up and people get the sense that, hey, nobody really does care about me. You're right. I mean, hence the title of this podcast. And that's where things get depressing and you feel betrayed.
Just a couple quick points. I already brought up Vets Guardian. That resource, go see some of our previous videos with myself, Tom, or me and Chappie talking about the VA. We've brought up 23rd, gosh dang it, I'm 23rd veteran. Yeah, there it is, 23rd veteran. I apologize. We've had them on before. They really are focused on veteran suicide. But, to P. Rick's point, I'm just going to throw this out there. If anyone is out there and you're a veteran and, you got to find another veteran. I only... like shit. We see. I don't know if I want to bring this up, P. Rick, because we could sidebar this. Like the retirement out briefing, and like it was shit. There's so much stuff. They don't care. They don't care. I know this is gonna sound stupid. If I would have had one more drill weekend, on the National Guard side, I would have had like my whatever it is, 24-year letter or whatever. And it would have been from President Obama. It would have been like a presidential, like, hey, thank you for serving. Look, I don't care about Obama and I don't care about his politics, but it's still the president of the United States recognizing that I did this much time. This is a woe is me. And as a company commander, if you're in the National Guard or Army Reserves, you know what I'm about to say. Like, you've got a MUTA 4, which is a Saturday and Sunday type of weekend thing. That's not how it all works, boys and girls, but that's just the common example. So if it was a MUTA 4, I would be down there on Thursday. I'd show up there Thursday at the end of the day, take my full-timers out for dinner. We'd sit and talk about the weekend, and then I'd be in the office all day Friday with them, then have drill weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Then I would do recovery ops on Monday, because there's always paperwork and shit you got to do. And then I would leave and come home at the end of the day, Monday, get home super late Monday night, and then get back to my regular job. The full-time staff, my full-timers, we're like, hey, this guy does so much time. Just give him a UTA, like a weekend, not for pay, but just for points. And then he gets this thing from the president. And the answer was like, yeah, we've already done the paperwork. So they actually, again, they hate you. You've got to just be careful. So I just want to throw it out there. Any veteran wants to talk, my phone is always open for a vet who just wants to talk. Or even if you're just a person and, your child or somebody else is going in. Because I would echo what P. Rick said. It's like, I don't regret a single day in the agency or a single day in the military. What I regret is not knowing. I wish I would have known more. Because Patrick, I just want to echo your thing. My thing would be like, if you're going to do it, document the shit out of everything, because when you're 50, what am I now? 57, when you're 57 and all your shit's falling apart and some bureaucrat says, well, you don't have a line of duty, and you're just screwed. So, I could get civilian insurance. You don't want to be in that situation. So Rick, that was a great point. Blackbeard, I want to get you into the fight here. We've been kind of talking about the VA for a little bit. Do you want to add to the VA? They don't care about you, or use that as maybe a springboard into something similar that you would like to say, or because if not, we'll go into I've got more, topics, as you well know.
I think it's best. I think it's best we go to a new topic. I'm not a veteran, and it's not my place to speak on it.
All right, fair enough. Then just real quickly, boys and girls, if you didn't see it in the chat, Redbeard, aka Sentinels of Liberty, aka Zarbaroda, Saturday, 1700 Central, fake time, Central Daylight Time. He's going to be covering the First Amendment issues, all that kind of stuff. And then he had one other comment. It looks like he's going to bring on, he's going to get, looks like he's going to get Tom Edelman coming back on. So if you haven't checked out his last 2 podcasts, he's only done 2 of them. They've been bangers, to use his terminology, bangers. And then just real quickly, this is a great resource. And then to back up our point, we're trying to give you solutions, but like this company, and this is where I'm going to end it. And then we'll go into another category. This company shouldn't exist, period. A civilian company, the VA healthcare is so effed up that some entrepreneur figured out that there was a business model and an opportunity to be able to create a business. And it takes a lot to run and their employees and all it's not just, oh, look at me, I'm making millions of dollars. Like they're able to fund a good sized business providing assistance to veterans. That company should never even exist. I hate to say it. Vet Guardian, I love you guys, but you know what I'm getting at. It's like, if this system was right and if they didn't hate us, you guys would be out of a job if it worked the right way, in my opinion. Yeah. And then my last note on that, though, and maybe I'll say this because you guys could, because Blackbeard, you can chime in on this. So this was on X not too long ago. That's another thing I was trying to find, but maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. It's a girl in Canada who's got a brain disease, and she needed an MRI. So Canadian healthcare. Hey, anybody from Canada, you can chime in on this. Maybe you know the story and give us a link and I'll pop it up. But yeah, she's going to get an MRI with the healthcare system they have there. She has a brain disease, right? And she needs the MRI. She's going to get it sometime next year. They really don't care about you. And the comment that somebody made is like, I'm surprised that they even offered you an MRI. Shouldn't they have just offered you assisted suicide, assistant, type of thing. So, all right, guys, let's go into, we're at about an hour. Let's just start this off with Tesla. Let's start it off with everything that's going on in Tesla right now. Let's kind of go into that category of how they hate you, right? I don't know if anyone has got like an idea, a thought they want to run with. I'm going to turn over to Blackbeard. He's been sitting there thinking, he's been dreaming of pirate booty. I said booty. He's been dreaming of, look at his pirate background setting and everything. Blackbeard, let's come to you. Tesla, and look, boys and girls, by definition, it is terrorism. I hate to say it. I've said it in the last video, but dude, you are committing an act of terrorism. Not, like you're a criminal, man. That guy who did the firebombing, I think they're talking 20 years for that guy. Probably 40 years too little. But Blackbeard, let's come over to you.
Well, I had my thoughts collected, and now it's a bit muddied the more that I think about it. But I mean, it's I guess what it is going to be for us is a test to see whether the system is truly structurally rearranging because of the administration that's come in and the cuts that are taking place and so forth. Because violence is not new to the American experience, and we've had many riots, and it's a question of who gets thrown under I guess the boot of the judiciary and who doesn't. In other words, who gets away with everything and who doesn't, you know? And so if these guys, because you got to remember, like, too, like, this is all, again, this is these, you don't just show up. I mean, they want you to believe that, okay? They want you to think these people, they just show up and they've had it. And so we're going to show, but this is all funded, okay? Just like the migration into the country is funded. Dollars have to happen. Dollars are the symbol of energy, and it takes energy to get stuff done. And this is stuff. It's just bad stuff, but it requires financing. And so we'll see how much is theatrical and how much is true opposition by what is it? Wisdom is known by her fruits. Ignore what they say, look at what they do. Unfortunately, right now, I just don't think it's worth really assessing it. I mean, we can be upset about it, we cannot like it, and I think you ought to be, because it's the destruction of private property. Like, that's not good. Like, and it's pretty trashy. I mean, then I'm being very generous in using that kind of language. It's evil, as Patrick said, it's evil, okay? But it's funded. I believe that it's funded. And what I want to see is that, they said that they're going to prosecute these people and they're going to find them. Well, dealerships have cameras, and I get that you can disguise yourself. But look, if you don't pay your taxes and you hide out in the Amazonian jungle, they will find you. They will find you, okay? So if you're not found, I don't know. I just think that the silence speaks volumes, okay, in that context. So that's about the best I can say with it. I expect more of it to continue. I expect to escalate. I wouldn't be surprised if it branches off from Tesla into other areas as well. I think the violence will probably escalate, but it'll be entirely dependent on whether or not the sources of the funding of the violence are truly cut off or not. If they don't get cut off, I'm going to make the assumption that this is theatrical, that this is intended to happen. The destabilization is purposeful. So we'll see. That's what I got.
So hang on, but I want to bring it back over to you real quickly. I don't know if you got to bounce and do something, but like, I love that. Before we come over to Patrick and P. Ricky, I'm sure you'll chime in too. But I love the funding, like, follow the money. That you're absolutely right. And we're starting to see some of this. And when you just said that, that makes me wonder, and we're going to talk about Doge as well. Is that why we see certain elements of our quote unquote elected officials having a conniption fit about? They're not mad that waste and abuse has been identified. They're mad that waste and abuse is being stopped. So to your point, is that maybe one of the things, because they were able to set up a system to use taxpayer dollars and these NGOs and corporations, USAID, et cetera, to be able to fund their own political campaigns, such as, the Summer of Love and, and 2 Point, what they're doing right now. Is that maybe part of it, Blackbeard?
A very small percentage of the population have what they now call anti-personality disorder. It's just kind of a whitewashed way of saying they're psychopaths, okay? And I mean that in a very clinical sense. I'm not a medical, professional per se, licensed or anything, but I do
But
mean
you
it
are a
like
pirate.
I am a pirate, and so everything I say should be taken at face value. But look, so take me back, because that threw me off. What
Sorry,
was
I
I
just
just
had to do
saying?
that because
No,
you
it's
were
fine.
talking about, like, that we're following the money and the actions of things that we see. If the money dries up or if this continues, I think that's the direction you were kind of going with that before I so rudely interrupted.
Well, what was the question?
It was exactly that. So is that maybe why they're so upset about Doge and finding all this government waste and abuse?
Oh, well, look, okay, so again, the psychopathy, that's where I was on the track for. So psychopaths have an overinflated sense of ego. They know how to almost intuitively recognize one another, and they completely lack empathy. It's like built in, where they call it warrior genes, and but because it makes you kind of fearless in taking risks. They're very they have a high risk propensity. They're not risk averse, which can work in their favor at times, but they'll gravitate toward positions of power. And so government is filled with psychopaths, just like the C-suite of corporations is filled with psychopaths. And, government, the myth that we tell ourselves, I'm sorry, I know I'm going to upset people with this, but this is what I think. And you've asked, so I'll share it. you know, the myth of government is that it's of the people, by the people, for the people. But I mean, if you look at it in point of fact, like that may be the initial intention, but that isn't the way things actually are. Okay, that's not somebody is going to rule, and the people that rule us, you say they don't care about us, but they do care. They care very deeply, but in a very negative direction. So it's
Yeah.
they don't love us. That's why it's they hate us, right? Is because you know, I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm going to go back a little bit. So we talked about the religion of the state being scientism. The god of the state is mammon. The god of the state is money. Okay. And in God we trust is on our money, and everybody just assumes that it's whatever God they believe in. But it doesn't really specify, does it? And our God, our holy temple is Wall Street, and they have the golden calf, the Wall Street sculpture of the bull, sitting right outside it. It tells you, it's literally there, and your subconscious knows because it's all part of spellcraft. But all that to say is like, so why do they why do they behave the way they do in terms of fraud in that? Well, you think that it's like, you know, oh, it got corrupted. The very purpose of it is fraud.
Yeah.
Fraud is the goal of the system. It isn't like, oh man, they, you know, so that's why they get upset when you're catching them, because it's like, no, this is, you have to understand, I'm speaking as them now. You are our slaves. Okay, we are, you know, parasites, sure, but you're there to ensure my way of life. That's your purpose. So you will work, and you will pay your myriad of licensing fees, and you will pay your taxes, and you will not question what we are doing with you can call it your money. Well, listen, if that's what you need to tell yourself to keep the system, the gears moving, that it's your money, yeah, we're not going to tell you what we're doing with your money. But at the end of the day, if you try and get in there and mess with our money, we're going to come down pretty hard. We're going to come down pretty fast, and we're going to make a stink about it. That's why you have, like, insofar as Elon Musk is genuine, I don't know, man, I don't know his heart, but insofar as he's genuine about rooting out corruption and fraud, he said as much that he can only push it so far without the risk of assassination, because again, the power structure's entire function is to act as a parasitic entity, the leeching off of the life force of the population through their economic utility. And that's why in previous episodes, when we talked about the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics, assuming that it isn't overblown, why that's such a dangerous thing for us heading into the future. Because in a society where the state religion is scientism, where the god is mammon, money, when you can't provide money anymore to buttress these psychopath, you know, corrupt, intentionally corrupt individuals, and they form, you know, social groups as well. Um, if you can't provide utility for them, then they don't have any use for you anymore. And suddenly you notice that people's lifespans are going down, and their living conditions are going down. And there are individuals, I'm not going to name them, but I could, but I won't, because various reasons. But they stated, as far as I understand, now this is anecdotal, okay, this is anecdotal, but that in the 1990s they understood the fiscal situation of the United States. They understood it, okay, and they knew that there was no righting the ship. And we're talking the 90s, so this would have been 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And they made the decision to simply siphon the wealth out of the country, and you know, let it be what it'll be. And that's why you had the talk of the Great Reset. So all, you know, all of this comes down to religion and to money and to psychology, because these are the forces that drive us more than anything. That's why they're like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. Why? Because those are the only things of substantive meaning. Okay. It's like we can all just get along and sing kumbaya if we don't talk about what matters. Get on board, man. But so, you know, what it is too is like, you have
All
to
I could just think
understand.
of, just real quickly, all I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
just think of is the theme song from the Legos movie. Everything is happy or whatever that.
Everything is awesome.
Yeah,
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 yeah. Like when you just said it, that's I just heard that playing in the background.
So,
Everything is awesome.
well, and that's part of the role of, so look, if you could do what you're doing, right? You're doing a detox here of social media, but it isn't just social media, and there's a huge technological component to this thing that we're deeply enmeshed in from birth. Many of us, okay? Like everyone here was born post the advent of the television, okay? Um, so all of these things act like, for example, they've talked about why are certain drugs legal and certain drugs not legal, and you can make up whatever excuses that you want about that. But if you look at it with any level of shrewdness, uh, you know, I'll give you an example, like the fentanyl that you talked about. Like you can get the scripts for that. That's no problem. Yeah, Mark, you can kill yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one less thing on the budget line that we have to worry. That money cannot be ours, Mark. Damn it. So
Well, and it is ours because we're giving you're taking the drug that we created and now we're
yeah,
pushing on you and we're all
exactly.
getting
But
kickbacks. Yep.
you're off the dole if you're out of the if you're not breathing anymore. I don't want to overstep my bounds, but I mean let's just be real, okay? And so and you know the things that the government and these corporations that they make us think about and the things that they don't matter. Okay, they are not at all concerned about the skyrocketing rates of autism. They're like they couldn't but when it comes to smoking cigarettes, they lose their mind. They lose their mind about it. And it's like, why? Why what are the things that they pick to care about and what are the things that they don't care about? And that'll take you in some directions that are very interesting. Okay? Because especially when you come to the fundamental understanding that not only do they not like you, and not care about you, but they kind of don't like you at all, actually. Except insofar as you can be valuable for the time that you're valuable. And that's why everybody feels like they're getting tossed away by the system. It isn't just veterans, you know, it's the young people that are like, hey,
Yeah.
where is our future, by the way? You know, like, are we ever going to, how am I going to afford, how am I going to have a family when I can't buy a house? And it's because of they've done to the money, they've inflated the prices of everything. And these are all policy decisions. These are choices that were made. And listen, I am not some genius sitting here and it's like, wow, Blackbeard figured it out. No one could have figured it out. It's like, you think that these people aren't smarter than me or you? I mean, then why am I me and they're them? Like, how did they get there? Well, maybe it's because they're more shrewd or they're more connected, sure. But I mean, like, we are not radical outliers here. They want you to think that we're all isolated, atomized, and we have no power, and we're the only ones who see it. You know, and everybody's afraid. It's like, oh, you too? Oh, you see it too? I see it all the time, and it's like, yeah, it's like half the population got knocked out of their coma, just like Patrick said, and they're starting to get it. You know. And so they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. You know, and if you don't form families, then there are fewer people. And, you know, Americans are very used to getting a certain standard of living that is our birthright for being born in this country and our ancestors having founded this nation, you know, but they don't believe in things like that for various reasons. So the long and short of it is the fraud is an intentional part of the system. It's one of the main motivators of the system. And the whole system, you know, go to the drug things, caffeine's fine, you know, but drugs that put you in a more mystical state where you begin to make connections and kind of things like that, that's not helpful because that's not helpful to the 9 to 5 system that keeps running, which is really a misnomer because people are working all kinds of odd jobs just to stay above board. You know, I just saw another thing came out and said, you know, they can't find $2,000 for an emergency. Well, I mean, college costs as much as houses used to cost, and now houses are only for the wealthy, you know. And these are all strains on the system that cannot continue. And you know, whether or not we get thrown into a direct and overt recession intentionally to try and clear some of this out, it ultimately doesn't matter because unless you fundamentally alter the way that money is created and therefore the perverse incentivization structure that extends as a product of that, you're going to continue to have these incredibly deranged psychopaths murdering you covertly, psychologically opping you using military grade technology that they admitted they were using on the Canadians during COVID, which, you know, if you think that they weren't using it on you, well, you know, what is it they say? I have a seafront property in Nevada to sell you or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I
It's
got
like,
that bridge to nowhere to sell you,
yeah, the
you know?
bridge to nowhere. We have to stop being chumps. it's more important than being like they say, oh, success is related, is relative to your IQ. Just look at this. Okay, well, fine, whatever, but the people that are going to that have the hardest time understanding what the system really is are the people who have benefited from it the most, because all of the incentivization structures are there. It's like Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle, said it's very hard to get a man to understand a thing when his income depends on him not understanding it.
All right, so
And
stop right there. So stop
yeah.
right there. Let's get P. Rick involved. But because that was a great, and that's and boys and girls, we all need to start doing a lot more reading. It wasn't until you actually said that I'm like, oh, I kind of remember that back in my day when we actually paid attention to what mattered. And that, I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Blackbeard, but like that was a lot of your statements. Like, we used to pay attention to stuff. We used to know. And I wrote down, look, everybody, do your own research. And I love how you brought up cigarettes. I think I just had this conversation with somebody the other night. I loved being able to go to a bar and smoke a cigar. I don't smoke cigarettes. I love going to a bar and there were people smoking cigarettes. It's a freaking bar, let the market figure it out, So what is it that they are pushing and what they are not pushing? And that really, to me, is a great way. That's almost like your own little set of, special glasses, They Live, Rowdy Piper, Keith David, great freaking movie. You get the glasses and now you can see all the advertising pushing you in a certain direction. But I think that was a great point, Blackbeard. Look at what they care about versus what they don't care about. Cigarettes no one cares about, and boys and girls, do your own research. There's a million other things that we could be focused on if we really cared about it. Like I thought, bringing it back into Tesla, where this whole thing started, I thought we cared about our economy. A few years ago, Elon Musk was the second coming of Christ. Electric cars, everybody's got to do this, and now he's being compared to Hitler. I mean, well, and people are giving away their cars. They're not giving away, they're selling them. So, again, I don't even know if I have to go down into the hypocrisy. Like, if you really were protesting, you would give the car away. Or like the Bud Light guy, you would blow up and burn or destroy your own car. You're not doing that. You already bought it. Tesla already got their money. And now you are reselling it so you can recoup your money. Like, oh, what a protest that is. And then clapping and applauding people who go and destroy somebody else's property. Look at what they're actually, like Blackbeard just said, what they are promoting as opposed to what they're not promoting. And there's so much more important things. But the Tesla, to me, really highlights one of them. Blackbeard, before I bring it over to Patrick, is there anything that I said that you want to add to or rebut? I mean, did I kind of at least do you some justice on that conversation? I got a thumbs up from Blackbeard. By the way, it's Blackbeard, first of his name, Pyramid Pirate. All right, let's come on down to Patrick. P-Rick, thank you for being patient. You know how this goes. I mean, you've been here plenty of times. So now the floor is yours. So take it away, sir. Now, we were talking about Tesla, and I was trying to use that as an example of how they hate you. Blackbeard did a great job. I don't think that was a rabbit hole. That just goes to the point we're trying to make. Do you want to add to it, or do you want to go someplace else yourself?
Well, I can, I guess, add to it, but this highlights everything that we've been talking about tonight. And first off, I want to say, Blackbeard, I was grooving on everything you were saying, and those are great points. Another thing to keep sight of, if you guys are tracking, what happens in the news, is watch out for these little sideshow distractions that draw people's attention away for,
just real quickly, I can still hear you. Let me know if you're transitioning. I just have to step away from but I'm still here. All right. Keep going, sir.
Yep. But you've got, I think what it boils down to is you've got, three categories or groups of people. You got the people that buy into whatever they're hearing on the news and think that, hey, yeah, this is the government's moving in a great direction. Trump's evil, Elon Musk is evil. All this stuff is justified. You got that group, and then you've got the other group that, and I'm not throwing shade at these folks, but like, hey, they just really don't pay attention to what's going on in the news. Sometimes, I think, Mark's, deliberate social media ban, maybe news ban is probably for health reasons, right? And I think we should all probably do that from time to time. But being completely uninformed, probably not the best approach. I mean, you got to have some sort of an idea. The question is, where do you get your information? And then there's those of us that watch this, and I think we're all in this camp of like, hey, we're very critical of everything that we hear and everything that we see and what people say. So I think that's best case. I think that we just have to watch out for our own, burnout with this stuff, because politics can literally just, it's the news cycle is 24/7. And if you're plugged into that and you make, obviously there's going to be things that like, evoke emotion and feelings from everybody. You'll get burned out. So I think that, taking these deliberate breaks from it from time to time are really good. I will bring up as far as Elon Musk goes, and this kind of really highlights they hate you. They don't care about you. Think about the astronauts that went up for 8 days. You're up there for almost 10 months, and then it takes the almighty evil person, the new coming of Hitler and Elon Musk to go rescue them. Yeah, he's a really bad guy. Are you kidding me? Like, what is that? So, ask the astronauts, hey, do you feel, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about your government leaving you up there? Because they were in an election cycle and they were in this chaotic state, and nobody, could get the funding to get up there and get you. How does that work? I would ask the heads of NASA, you had these people up there? Like, I mean, what, what are you doing? And the long-term, periods in space with no gravity, that's not good for the human body. So these people are probably going to have, physical issues for the rest of their lives now.
Yep.
So it's just absolutely insane. So if that speaks to, like, how do they, do they hate you? Yeah. But for these people, I mean, they're living proof. So yeah.
Well, and if I may, Patrick, if I can just add onto that for both you and Blackbeard, that's kind of one of my major points I want to make. Like, no one in the media, no one in government, no one's asking, like, NASA, why do we even have you around? Yet again, and however you said it, the second coming of Hitler, however you, like, that was awesome. Yeah, but that guy, what everybody who everybody's now saying the stupidest rich guy and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, but his company was able to go up there and rescue 2 astronauts, literally left Earth's atmosphere, went into, I can't even remember, maybe one of you guys can help me or somebody in the chat. I mean, it wasn't near Earth. I mean, it was, the orbit for the space station is out there. So, because it has to be, to avoid the gravitational pull and all that kind of crap and stay in orbit. And get up there, rescue these guys, bring them all the way back down to Earth. And as we said in the beginning, and it was so awesome because there was a pod of dolphins in the water. Like, come on, if you don't believe in a creator or a higher being or something, like, I don't know what to tell you, but like, our ancestors used to call those things signs. That was a pretty badass sign. But to your point, Patrick, he's the worst thing. And so many people are going along with it. Like, I don't think the people who are going along with it realize, man, they're going to throw you under the bus the moment they get a chance. Like, these people, back to Blackbeard's great soliloquy, they don't care about you. It's all about them. I got mine. I'm a narcissist. I'm evil. So you guys want to chime in a little bit on that, and then we'll move on to our next little segment.
Yeah, I'm going to have to break, but I'll just kind of add a couple of things. I mean,
hang on. By break, do you mean just take a second away, or are you done for the night?
I'm going to have to exit.
Okay.
But take a look at what Lindy Lee said. She was the one of the major Democratic Party fundraisers who finally woke up and said, "Hey, I can't be part of this anymore." And they asked her point blank, like, what does this boil down to? It's just like the Democratic Party doesn't stand for anything anymore except for itself, and it puts the party over the country in almost all circumstances. And that's pretty harsh criticism coming from the lady that was like one of your primary fund raisers, right? So, I mean, that's what we're dealing with. And I don't like to like paint this black and white photo that, hey, the Democrats are evil, the Republicans are great. I mean, there's plenty of scumbags. I would say that any person that wants to get into elected, positions and step into the political arena, there's probably something a little bit off with you. Although I think it's going to take good people to get in there, but the process for good people to get in there and vote their conscience, that there's not really a pathway for that anymore. Everything is about fundraising. And once you get into the fundraising, they have you raise more money for, each level up you go. You're already in the corrupted phase, because you have to be, because the larger donors that are going to provide those big checks, they're gonna want their pound of flesh when the time comes, and you better deliver. So the system is screwed up that way. There needs to be significant reforms. That's been forever, but is it going to happen? And it would take those people to vote to limit their terms, and that might change some things. But I don't see anybody in significant numbers ever going to do that.
And that wasn't even part of the show notes, but that's a great point right there, P. Rick. Like, boys and girls, just ask yourself this: like, it's rules for thee, but not for me, all across the board. Corona, not for the, you got to take the shot, not for members of Congress. They didn't have to do any of that stuff. Hey, you got to do this. We don't have to. Hey, let's just give ourselves another pay raise. I mean, like term limits. Do you think that in our current political situation, how many people would even come out there? I think you would actually, Patrick, you'd get some people who would say they're willing to do it simply because they know it's never going to carry in the upper or the lower house. And it's never going to be a rule. So some people will be like, we should be limited, but they know it's never going to happen. So that's the only reason they say it. But it absolutely needs to happen. And there shouldn't be any special interest groups and PACs. We need some serious reform. But I guess we kind of created this monster. Hey, before you address that, or Blackbird, if you do, Patrick, how much more time we have so I can figure out how to best utilize you as the combat multiplier you are before you go?
I need to kind of get rolling now. I'm about 15 minutes behind.
Okay, well then how about this then? How about you just take us out on your final comment? Blackbeard and I will try to do justice without you, because I'm going to bring up I think I'm going to probably just bring up the Epstein file. So I don't know if there's something you want to say about the Epstein file, but again, we're not just bitching here. We're not griping. We're also trying to point out and illustrate some ways in which that you can, work outside of the system or work within your community. So P-Rick, any final comments before you got to bounce? And by the way, you know the deal. Blame it on me. Household 6. You just be like, Mark screwed it up again, whatever. So.
Yeah. So, I don't like ever, feeling, and we, to a certain degree, are in this subject to, whatever's, the government's doing in some regard, right? There's no escaping that. The one thing I come back to is, looking at, if you guys ever have heard of the book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen Covey. He says, hey, every single person has this available to them, right? You have, and it's like concentric circles, that at the center you have control, and literally what do you control is what the words that come out of your mouth, the food that goes in your mouth, what you wear, how you behave, what you do with your body, that type of thing, right? You have direct control over that. But the three of us here, I don't control either one of you guys or anybody listening for that matter. But the next phase out is influence, right? Can we what do we do with that influence? I can negatively influence people by spewing hate and division and that type of thing, or we can do what I think that we're trying to do here, is bring people together and give them some type of solution, or at least discussion points that they can realize, hey, we need to be a little more engaged in something. The last zone is the zone of concern, and I think that's what where we spend a lot of our time. In Stephen Covey's, teachings, he said, hey, look, the people that are highly successful in the world, they recognize that zone of concern is nothing that they can touch. There's nothing they're going to do to change it. So they're going to spend the bulk of their time controlling themselves and then influencing others. And that influence zone really expands out, right? So I think that's kind of a way that we need to look at things. On this Epstein piece, one way we can influence things is, hey, start being vocal with your, your elected leaders. Push stuff out there. Hey, we were promised a list. What's going on? Can somebody inquire? Can somebody that's on a committee ask for this to be, and start petitions? I mean, maybe we should do that. Start a petition to move that thing up. Hey, we want to see it. We understand that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has it. Let's see it. Release it. Let's go. This is about transparency. It's time to be transparent. We've been waiting. How many days, Mark?
I'm kind of almost giving up, but I think it's 66. Yeah, I think it's 66 today. Honestly.
Yeah. So I mean, just that's one.
Well, and I think I told you I'm done doing that. I guess I didn't know you'd have to bounce, but I'll explain that, or I'll do it in a standalone video. But yeah, I'm not even going to do that anymore because unfortunately, it's just caused.
Yeah.
No, people are getting mad at each other. I'm like, I think everybody's missing the point of what I'm trying to do here, but we'll get to that later. But
yeah, but anyway, just hey, recognize that, hey, there's only so much we can control and influence, and spend your time on that, and don't let this stuff like drag you down, because at the end of the day, as long as you've got your family, your health, your tribe, so to speak, that's what life's about anyway.
Yeah. And then boys and girls, I mean, just in all fairness, and transparency, excuse me. So, we didn't really have much of a pregame. I talked to P-Rick for just a few seconds before we went live. And, look, and you got to have people in your corner. You got to have a tribe. You've got to have people that, who, hold your, call you out on your bullshit. And so when we were talking, I think P-Rick was kind of like, earlier, he was like, hey, but that's kind of, I'm like, no, actually, I agree with you. I'm trying to like bring that out in a positive sense. Like, hey, we should be asking these questions and we should be doing this. But at the end of the day, back to the concentric rings. Now I use the concentric ring, so I know, but I use it in more in security, but you can apply that same principle that Patrick just talked about, in the way it was kind of developed. I've kind of, twist it and distort it into my little thing over the years, and then look at that and then say, well, I have no control over this. So therefore focus on where you do have control. Like, so we're probably never going to get anyone to actually, I hate to say I'm being black-pilled, and Blackbeard and I can, carry the black pill water, once Patrick's gone, but just to give Patrick one last comment. It isn't about the negative, like, okay, we're never going to hear this, and so therefore F it. That's not what we're saying at all. You take that and then you take it to heart and you put it in your, and you mold it and you twist it into your decision-making process, and you find out, okay, well, that's going to be the reality and I can't control that. It's out. That's a concentric ring too far away. I've got no influence or ability. So how do I take that information and knowledge and then bring it back into my inner rings and then make it more valuable and worthwhile for what I'm trying to do and the people in my little immediate circles? Patrick, does that add to what you just said? Does that make a little bit more on the Epstein side?
I think what Stephen Covey had in mind is like, hey, if you can't control it, because there's only so much you personally control. If it's outside of your zone of influence, then you probably shouldn't be spending time worrying about it, right? Either expand your zone of influence. That means connection and building bigger tribes and relationships and networks. And if it's still beyond, like a lot of like the big news stories, some of these things are beyond us, right? So, hey, should we spend so much time wasting it on concern with that, or should we spend our energy and our efforts towards, our work, our family, our faith, our, hobbies? I mean, life. We should enjoy life. It was given to us. Let's enjoy it. Let's not make everything. That's where politics, I think, poisons a lot. And I think your intentional, break from social media and that type of stuff is kind of inspiring me. I think it's a great experiment just to see, hey, I bet you we feel better if we talk next, in a couple of weeks.
Hey, but not to throw you under the bus and not to say that we're wrong in this, but that also, to me, as we say it out loud, and somebody else might be picking this up, what I'm about to say, but that's exactly what evil wants us to do, is not to pay attention to these things that are outside of our concentric rings, that are outside of our control. Evil wants us to, but I also think the corollary or the countermeasure to that is No, I focus on the things I can control. And then just like a rock in the water, it has a ripple effect and it can actually go out. So,
Yeah.
but do you want to respond to that before you punch out, sir?
I don't know. I think at the end of the day, you've got to find a way to enjoy your life. And, if you're constantly bogged down with, the fear mongering stuff, hey, being aware is one thing, allowing it to like negatively impact you. I think that's looking at like a spiritual side of it. Hey, God doesn't want you to be afraid. If you believe, then there's no reason to be afraid. So you should be courageous, try to, spread love and, connection with everybody around you. That's where I think, I try to put my focus, and I think that's probably a good, use of our energy and time.
Well, amen. I appreciate you coming on here tonight, sir. Again, throw me under the bus with Household 6 if you need to. You probably don't need to, but
we'll be all right.
Actually, I'd like to hear if you ever did, like, what you said, like, I would like to at least know what kind of trouble I'm in someday, shit, like
I'll take notes. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Hey, hats off to P. Rick for coming on, taking time from his life and everything he's got going on to be with us tonight and share his thoughts. And Patrick, you have a good night. I'm not even going to bug you. Well, can I bug you for the after action review, or are you out for that then too?
Let's do that some other time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I'll just holler at you later. All right, everybody. Hats off to Patrick. Thank you very much for being here tonight, sir. Really appreciate it as always.
All right. Enjoyed it, gents. Take care.
All right. Thank you now. And look at Blackbeard. Blackbeard's changed his lighting. He is very piratey. All right, Blackbeard. I don't know if you want to start just chiming in. We're at an hour 40. Let's kind of wrap it up here. Let's just kind of keep it at the 2 hours. That's kind of the new goal. And I know, boys and girls, you're like, what? Then they should start saying goodbye right now, because it's a Minnesota goodbye. So it's going to take like another 2 hours. But no, on a serious note, Blackbeard, do you want to respond to what Patrick was talking, or do you have anything different or a different direction you want to go in our last 20 minutes here?
Yes, to both. I'll
Okay.
just say that he's right that you should focus on what you can control and being productive. So, like, I was thinking today, I bought a book on regenerative agriculture, and I really need to take that more seriously. Just because I think the more that we connect with nature and with spirit in a time of exponentially accelerating technological development, which divorces us from both of those things, and has for quite some time, but it's worse now. I think the better. So yeah, he's right. But you do have to resist evil and expose evil. But it says, Nietzsche said, you steer into the abyss too long and the abyss stares back into you. It's oft quoted. It's true. You can't let that poison into your heart. Apostle Paul said something to the effect of, like, whatever is lovely, whatever is good, whatever is pure, focus on these things. There's studies that indicate that gratitude influences the activity and size of I believe it's the hippocampus in your brain. So, focusing on what you love more than what you don't love is a better way to live. It's a healthier way. And over time, it heals your soul. So, and then you win, and you always win. Even when you lose, you win. So
well, if I can just add to that, because I like where you were just saying, and this is, just totally, out of left field, I guess. But, if you've watched these podcasts, I really like the book by Robert Heinlein, Starship Troopers. The movie, yeah, okay, it's a movie, but it doesn't do the book any justice. And Vanderhove even said he never even read the book, the director, blah, blah, blah. So kind of stupid. Read the book, very different from the movie. But to what you just said there, Blackbeard, there are elements of that inside of that book when you're just talking about, either our place in our community, our place in our society, or our place within ourselves, and how we should be approaching and the things that we can kind of do going forward. And it's a very warrior type of book, right? It's about a guy who's like going through boot camp to be a badass special forces, futuristic, special forces kind of guy to fight the bugs, right? But there's a lot of those elements of what you just said right there. And I kind of really like that. And I know that was a weird segue, but continue.
So I'm going to give you an example of a positive action in your range of control that you can do. You can go and you can get one of these scout carriers, centerline system, clsgear.com, and you can put a bottle in the bottle carrier. You can put, that's what it's for. You can put a bottle in there, and inside the bottle, you can put something with which to hydrate yourself. Water is a good option. It's been around for a few billion years. So that's a good way to go. And then what you can do is you can take this scout carrier. If you look at it, I'll just turn it around to the side here. There's a strap. I know it's glitching in and out of the matrix, but there is a strap here. And you can put it over your shoulder. And then with the two legs that you have, which are hopefully functional, you can then mobilize yourself out into a natural environment, and you can give gratitude to God for the breath in your lungs and the beautiful surroundings. And that's a great thing to do too.
And the bounty of nature that he provides, whether it's
Mhm.
berries, water, animals. Yeah.
And Mark, if you find such said bounty, you'll notice that on the front of the scout carrier, there's actually a pouch which could easily hold berries or other accoutrements. So
Hey,
yeah.
boys and girls, I'm okay. We're at the end of the podcast here tonight. I'm actually glad he's glitching out in the matrix, because that was, hey, it's Blackbeard. He's going to do what Blackbeard wants to do. Right. But I didn't know that was going to happen, but I'm actually kind of happy it glitched out. But on a serious point, they hate you. So find ways, get back into your concentric rings, find ways to influence the areas in your life that you can interest. And on a serious note, I mean, Blackbeard's kind of joking, but he's not. That's what you can influence. That, back to these other kind of larger conversations that can enlarge your soul. That can, oh gosh, I got to tread carefully here. I have no permissions to say this, so I'm just going to dance around this. I was talking to somebody the other day, had a great conversation with them. They had some issues during Corona, not physical, but just like on the work side. Has a new job now. Yeah, they make a little bit less money, but they have so much more time with their kids. And so that's how I just took your comments right there, Blackbeard. Finding those ways to do you really need that? Cut that away, because they don't care about you. Again, you got somebody who wants to join the military or whatever. I will talk to anybody and share as much information and experience as I can. But at the end of the day, you've got to find that thing, that nice balance, and if hey, I make less money, but now I'm finally around my kids. Well, that's how you make sure that they don't win and they don't get their pound of salt or pint of blood out of you every time. So Blackbeard, you want to kind of, because you started it. I mean, you want to add to that, or do you want to go?
Yes, I'm going to go.
I think you got one more comment to make though still.
Okay.
Oh, Gene just said awesome on you for that comment, by the way.
Thank you, Gene. Woo. Gene, woo.
Yeah.
Woo.
Woo.
So they hate you. It's true. They do. But you know what? There are people who love you. And that's something else that you can focus on too, because, some of us, how do I put this? Everyone is going to pass away. Everyone is going to die. And I think many of us have had close calls, right? I've had close calls. And the things that go through your mind are not Tesla dealerships. And no offense to Tesla dealerships, they're great and all, but perspective is really hard to do in this time. It's always a challenge, because if the devil can get you to focus on the things that edify his kingdom, then you become a tool for him too. And it's not an easy thing to suss out, because you have a responsibility to recognize evil. One scripture says, Blackbeard's getting religious, he's getting spiritual. Yep, I am. One of them says, that you should be as gentle as a dove, but as shrewd as a serpent. And it's this balancing act. It's like the role of the mystic who lives in a constant state of contradiction. It's the fate of mankind to live between heaven and hell, to live in a place where you constantly think about the things that matter in the bigger picture, but you also have to buy toilet paper. It's just a, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's like, how can this be? But it is, this is the ride that we're on. And um all the world's a stage, and man plays many roles in a lifetime. And I think that the better we accept that and play our roles, the happier we'll be. A lot of the discontent that people have is the aversion that they have to the role that that they've been dealt. And I heard somebody say once, it sounds like a cliche bumper sticker, because it is, but it's like success is playing the hand that you were dealt like it's the hand that you wanted. And a lot of that is just shifting your frame of reference. Um,
Hey, say that one more time. I think people didn't,
mhm.
may not. I'm not saying any, and I don't see any comments saying that, but like, I like that. Say that one more time, because yeah, that's a very great point. Can you do that one more time for everybody?
Success is playing the hand that you were dealt like it's the hand that you wanted.
Yep. That also goes into a little bit of accept. So for me, when I heard that, and that's why I wanted, like, it also goes into that whole thing, like, you said earlier, no one gets out alive. We're all mortal. This is what and these are the cards I've dealt. I'm going to do the best I can with these cards. I mean, that's another way of saying it, right?
Something that's worthy of understanding, and I'm not saying you should pity these people because they are trash. And I don't sit with, these, there's fundamental presuppositions that we have societally that I don't agree with, like hate and division are bad. It depends on what the hate and division is oriented towards. What
Yeah.
fellowship has light with darkness, I would ask, right? Others much smarter than I have asked. I have not come to bring peace but a sword, said the Christ. To divide a man, his enemies will be those of his own household. But I thought division was bad. Division bad. If you're a woman, sorry. But that's the goal, is to make everybody just constantly get along. And it's like sometimes you need to not get along, okay?
Well, yeah, and that's exactly it. And
Um,
that goes
but
into
and you
a larger, like, thing, like,
but that
turn
doesn't
the
mean
other
that you're
well, hang on,
yeah.
just real quickly, because you know way more about this to me than me, but just to throw, because I think it adds to your point. So from a very layman perspective, like, turn the other cheek, and like, no, that's, you're totally misinterpreting that scripture, or that line of thought and reasoning. It doesn't mean you just let people run roughshod over you, and not even in the least bit does it mean that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's
Here we
it's
go,
just there.
boys. Look at him. He got out. He was like, "Oh, I got to think of what I'm going to say." You saw him get
There's
ready. Here we go, boys.
Well, just the constant state of tension. Okay, everybody wants to get along because that's beneficial to the system. That is a feminine trait. I'm not trying to knock women. I'm just saying that they're
Yep.
oriented toward that, and there's a reason for that, and it's a good reason, but it's not what we need right now. What we need is to know when to be divided and when to be united. It's just more complicated than just like, let's just not hate and let's just all get along. We shouldn't align ourselves with evil. It's a bad idea in the name of just getting along. Um, but you have to understand what like righteous resistance to evil means and exposure means. And you have to know how to live in a state of gratitude. There was a
And
great
wonderment. I would actually throw
and
wonderment
wonderment.
in there too. Yep.
I
I
agree
would throw
with
that
you
in there too.
because they have disenchanted the world. They've made it into this mechanistic kind of product instead of understanding just how beautiful. And I think a lot of this goes to like people's anxiety. Just people are just filled with anxiety, so I have to know it. I have to know what it means. I have to cut it up. I have to find its constituent parts, what makes it up, what comprises it, in other words. And then that way I can manipulate it. And if I finally get it under control and I finally have understanding, then I don't have to be afraid anymore. And you have to let it go. You gotta let it go, man. and just live in the mystery. Life is filled with mystery. They're never gonna get it. We're never gonna get it. Um,
And
so
if I may, just to not to
please.
sidetrack you, but just to add to like tonight's theme, they hate you. Like the answer isn't government or more government. Like to if I may, Blackbeard, that's how as you were talking, that's where I jump to, which is like that's just another further example. That spiritual kind of conversation we're having is another example of that illustrates no, they hate you, and that's not the direction you should be going. Yeah,
When I
you may still suffer, you may still be poor, life sucks, whatever, but that's not that's the solution isn't in that direction because they don't really care about you anyway. They just don't.
when I die, I will know that there were people that loved me and that I loved people and that I had a connection to God. And these people are not going to have that. And I don't think you should pity them. But I'm richer than they are. Okay. This is a spiritual place, and they're spiritually dead. They're dead. They have nothing. They think they have everything and they want everything. And the more that they get, the less that they have because they're missing the mystery. Okay. We're going to do a pivot here. This society will do a pivot because we've gone so far to the extreme that it's going to force the evolution of a rediscovery of enchantment in the world. That's going to happen. It's already beginning to happen, but the weed is separating from the chaff. And ever was it so, you know? It's always been that way. There is nothing new under the sun. The same forms find the same expression through iterative development over the course of time. Okay. So it's like, oh, forces of chaos and order and tyranny and freedom and all those kinds of things, it's ever been that way. And it's just the form is the same and the context shifts. And the same things we struggle with. It's more challenging now in a lot of ways. But you know what? If we weren't up to the challenge, God wouldn't have given us the challenge. We're up to the challenge. It's real. The stakes are real. People don't understand that the stakes are real. It's a show. All the world's a stage, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have meaning.
I think it actually, and I'm glad you just took us in that, kind of direction as we're wrapping up. And what a great way to wrap it up. The fight is worth fighting. It's tough. The struggle is real. Like, I don't know if you want to add, I heard a noise. I don't know if that was something else, but no, the struggle is real. This is the real fight, and it's not pretty. And, and in private, and I guess I'll just share something that, privately I say to Blackbeard and Blake and, the guys in the group, and maybe I've said this out loud before, but matter of fact, wasn't it Blackbeard? You once asked me to define how you look at life. And I said hardship, because I think that's just so. And again, but for me and Blackbeard and for you guys and gals watching this video, maybe the definition of our time in life is hardship. But by struggling and working our way through it and realizing these other people don't care about you. So find your concentric rings and find the areas where, it does come back to you and it's better for your soul. Yeah. Okay. You're not, not everybody's going to be Elon Musk. Why in the hell do we actually keep like putting rich and famous people up on pedestals? The vast majority of them, because they're not even really good people. Most of them, and same with politicians and et cetera and et cetera. Blackbeard, go ahead.
It's all about what you choose to value, and what you value is your choice. Okay. And it's not an easy choice to make. The reason it isn't easy is because for whatever reason, our nature and society as an expression of that and other things, but it's structured in such a way that all of the alignments are towards valuing things that don't matter in actuality, like fundamentally. And it's hard to break the spell. It's like the siren song, Odysseus, on the
Yeah,
ship, and he ties
good pull.
himself to the mast.
Good
It's like
pull.
consumerism, or it's the dopamine hit of technology, or it's
Or
why
the
don't I
black,
why
the
it's
black, the black mirror.
the
Yep.
black
Good.
scrying
Yep.
mirror. It's
Yep.
why don't I have this? It's always why don't I have this, instead of thank you God that I have this. It's always why don't. It's and all of that is like a habit, and it's unconscious, but you can choose to shift what you value. And when you truly do that, when you truly shift what you value, and it comes into alignment with what actually matters, that is a level of freedom that's bigger than what you pay taxes to or don't. I know that may not seem immediately obvious, but it is the case. When you're free in here, and I'm not saying that I am, but I see the path. I see the path to freedom. And before you can have freedom out there, you have to have freedom in here.
And
And
and if I can, for just everybody, like I made a Heinlein reference earlier, and maybe I didn't do a good job of it, but like Blackbeard's bringing up. So Heinlein in his writings talks about, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To Blackbeard's point, there is no guarantee to life, and there's no guarantee to the only thing that you are guaranteed is this right here. You can, liberty's not guaranteed, life isn't guaranteed. Happiness, that's a mental state. You are the one who controls that. That's the only thing that you have actually any influence over. Like, try arguing with the body of water that you're drowning in. But I have a right to life. The body of water doesn't give a shit about that. Like, the lake's like, are you a fish? I thought you were a fish. You're supposed to be, like, whatever. You see where I'm going with that. Blackbeard, we're at 2 hours. Again, I'm trying to keep these at 2. I just want to point out one comment that just came in here at the end, and then I've got maybe 2 minutes of, like, housekeeping at the end to bring up, but I want to give you some final comments and chance here, but as we wrap it up. But Groundfog, thanks for being here. And Groundfog said, I needed that message. Thanks and blessing. Seriously, amen, brother. And I think that was, maybe we didn't do, let us know. Did we do a good job of promoting that? But that was the reasoning or the intent behind tonight's episode. The title seems really horribly negative, but at the end of the day, it's trying to, let's just get people to realize, like, these other people hate you, and it's really on you. It's on us, and how the changes and the influences and the impact that we can make in our small, whatever, the first concentric ring or the second concentric ring. Blackbeard, dude, your Gatorade just disappeared as you were drinking it. You are a magician. Are you should you be saying Blackbeard like a pirate, or Blackbeard a magician? I don't know, man.
why can't I be both? Why do I have to choose?
I don't remember ever playing a magician level, a mage level pirate in Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid. But you're right. Why can't you be one of those? Why can't there be a character like that?
This is no time to live in regret, Mark. I think you need to start up a campaign and create the magician pirate.
Seriously, is Dungeons and Dragons even a thing anymore, or is that gone?
I don't know. I know that it exists. How popular it is, I don't know.
Hey,
But,
somebody on demand or in the chat, let us know. Blackbeard, give us your final comments, and then I've got, well, here, I'll just do one little bit of housekeeping, then you do final comments, and maybe your final comments take us out. But boys and girls, I wasn't going to announce this. I'm going to, just because of the direction we kind of went at the end. Wasn't sure if the message would come across, but you can see the real message here isn't, it's not a bitch. It's not a complaint. It's not a gripe. It's really just like, take a step back, realize that we're all being played, and that we all have something so much more worthy to provide to the world, ourselves, our family. And there's so many other glorious things that we can avail ourselves to. Nature, like Blackbeard has already brought it up a whole bunch of times. Get out there. He did that great, put this over your shoulder and use your legs and arms and get out there and do stuff. And so I really like that. So I don't have the answer yet. I'm taking next week off, like I said, from social media. But I think one of the things that we're going to start doing is we're going to do a Sunday live stream. And I'm actually been working this out with Blackbeard. I've been working this out with Learn Me Something, trying to figure this out. Redbeard made some great comments. We already got kind of like the Chaplain series. So it isn't going to be like necessarily a Christian based thing, but it's going to be more of a spiritual based thing. And maybe we just start doing like an hour-long podcast on Sundays, and whoever wants to join in and have an adult table conversation like we've just done tonight at the very end. So Blackbeard, I'm only bringing that up because that's what you just did. Like what Blackbeard did in his last monologue there, that's actually maybe what the Sunday series is going to look like. So on that note, so just stay tuned. More information coming. I'm still trying to figure it out, but Blackbeard, add to what you want. Take us out. You know the deal. We're at about a little over 2 hours right now, and then we'll wrap it up from there, sir.
My final closing comment before I make an abrupt disappearance, as per my stage magician nature. They hate you is less important than who loves you. Okay. I know
Amen.
that sounds really soft, but that's the case. Okay. And I think that all of these things require a good measure of meditation on them, because what appears to be isn't always what is. There are four kinds of appearances. There are appearances. There's that which appears to be and is not. There is that which does not appear to be and is not. There's that which does not appear to be and is, and there's that which appears to be and is. Okay. So what does all that mean? What it means is that the news hurls bad things at you, and it makes it hard to see what's beautiful. And people come back and they say, well, this is what you should focus on, like I'm doing. And it sounds right, but we all need to sit and meditate and reflection on these things and really figure out, what can I control and what should I actually, in point of fact, do? And like, for example, it sounds great that we shouldn't be divided, because we take it as a given that we should be united, but maybe not always. Maybe there are times when we ought to be, when it's a good thing to be divided. And it's not a good thing to love evil, it's a good thing to hate evil, but it is a good thing to love people. That's a good thing. And it's a good thing to love yourself in a healthy way, not like a psychopath. And I think for all of that, you have to engage with the enchantment of mystery again, because it's there, even if you want to deny it. If you want to be the person whose field of vision is 3%, your conscious mind is 3%, and your spiritual vision is 1%, you can make that choice, but it's always a choice that we do have, to broaden that. And when you broaden it, you'll see that you weren't seeing with greater clarity that 1%, you were missing out on everything else. It's like, I think C.S. Lewis says something to the effect of, and I don't want to butcher this, but it's like he likened God to the sun, because it is by its light that he sees all things. And that's what we have to get back to, is the understanding of those things, because it isn't enough simply to recognize and call out evil. You can complain about them not exposing the Jeffrey Epstein list, and you can take with respect Patrick's advice and vote and call up your people, and that's all a beautiful waste of time. Beautiful waste of time, my opinion. Just my opinion. Because they don't care. As you said, they hate you, as we've said. So what can I do then?
If I may, I mean, like this is just my humble opinion, but before you go too far away from it, look, boys and girls, I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that the last election, not this one between Trump and Kamala, but 2020, they stole it, and there were slip ups there. I mean, there's evidence on the file that actually indicates that. And if you just look at voting records and all, there's so much stuff. Like, okay, it was one of the most anomalous, events in the history of things that have happened in history that we've actually tracked. So I just wanted to throw that out to your point there, Blackbeard. Like we could spend the time focused on that and begrudging, or we can. Am I adding to your comment there?
These are state level actors, and there's certain levels of evil that are just outside the purview of any one person. And why it angers us is because we have that sense of moral justice, and we want justice. We want justice. This is unjust. It's unjust, and it shouldn't be. And we need to play our part in seeing justice and mercy, and having the wisdom to know when to exercise each of those. But there are certain times when vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and you need to trust. You need to ask and believe that you've got that. Okay, that God is an executor of justice and mercy, and He knows in what measure to give it, and when to give it, and where to give it, and how to give it, and that you don't. And you need to be humble enough to admit that. And if you're given an opportunity through providence or otherwise to exercise a role in that, then you should take it. But you don't have to sit around always thinking of ways to invent it, or allowing the injustice of it to corrupt your own sense of peace, to let it rob you of your peace, because you deserve to have peace. You need to love yourself in the right way enough to know that I deserve to have peace, and I will play my part in seeing justice and mercy dealt out when and where it needs to be dealt out, insofar as within the purview of my power, my ability to do so. And when it's not, I choose to release it. And trust
But don't forget, like you said earlier, and where applicable, I choose to resist it. I choose to fight back against it. That's not, you are not a bad person.
When you are confronted with it, and this is okay, I have the agency now to resist evil, then you have a moral obligation to yourself and to God to do exactly that. You must do it. And if you don't, you will pay the price of aligning with evil. And if you do it, you'll pay the price of aligning with good. And so you always have to ask yourself, as I've said before, and I will continue to say, you have to ask yourself, what price do I want to pay? Because there is no such thing as a free lunch.
Yep. There's no such thing as free shipping, boys and girls. There is no such thing as free shipping.
Mark, just sow it. Just sow it, Mark.
Hey, let's wrap it up. Because I can just feel like, let's you and I have this conversation as part of our after action review. So stay tuned, everybody. But this is something, kind of, you can see where the very end has gone. And I don't know if that was intentional or unintentional, but it goes into tonight's theme. They hate you, right? So we're also looking at solutions and options and just believing in something, right? I'm not promoting that you have to believe in my God, right? Christianity, but at least meet me halfway, and you've got some faith and some understanding, and you understand, good versus evil. But now Blackbeard, Groundfog was asking if will you post Blackbeard's channel, please? And then so Blackbeard, I'm going to give you a chance here. So Questview by channel, I'm not 100% sure, but this is Blackbeard's YouTube channel, but this is more of a gear channel though, Blackbeard. So I don't know can you address Groundfog? I mean, I don't know if he's asking if you've got a separate channel where you elucidate or just, sit and talk about things. Boys and girls, for whatever this Sunday thing looks like, I can't do this. I'm not the right, I'm just the host. It's got to be like Learn Me Something, Blackbeard, people like that. They're going to end up driving that conversation. I'm just going to try to use, my channel, my platform as a vehicle to help facilitate this. But it'll definitely have to be Blackbeard and Learn Me Something or other like-minded people kind of really running the conversation. So Blackbeard, do you want to address Groundfog there on was that channel a good enough thing to say, or do you got anything else going on in the background that we can share?
Well, first of all, I just say that I'm humbled that you want to go to my channel. But yeah, that is a gear review. And I can make a million excuses, but I've been busy with a lot of stuff, and I just haven't been updating that regularly. But that's really just gear related stuff. For this kind of stuff, I guess maybe the Sunday thing would be better to tune into. I don't really have a dedicated channel. Sometimes on my Instagram, I post little videos of my thoughts, but we'll see where it goes. But you can, if you want to join the Telegram chat, as long as that's up or whatever, you can always message me on there. That's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I also like host like a Bible study on Sundays at my own residence, so it's something where drawn I feel drawn to do that in a certain extent because we really need solutions in this time. And I'm not saying that I necessarily have them, but I have something I think that can lead lead us in that direction in a certain measure. Like everybody has that, right? Everybody has their own ministry that they can speak into, and I've kind of neglected that for a while. But you know, a pastor friend of mine had me take over his study when he moved out of state, and then I kind of like let that go, and then it organically popped up again. So it's something I think I'm being drawn to do. I'll just say that I'm kind of unconventional in a lot of my thoughts, even by church standards. I used to go to a very unconventional church for like 8 years, and then I left that, and but it closed down. I didn't really leave it. I guess that's not fair to say, but I just haven't. I don't go now to any particular institution, and but we're all on this journey. And I think it's one of those things where you hold on to something so tightly, um, and you hold in the conflict for so long because look, if you're not completely comatose, you know how screwed up things are, and you know how much suffering is in life. And no matter what angle you come at it, like you said, there's the suffering, and life is suffering. Life is suffering. It's not only suffering, but it is suffering. And much of it is learning how to deal with that with dignity and poise. And there's two kinds of people, and the difference between the kinds of people that there are is a matter of what they choose. And it's when you're holding on so tight that you either have the choice to let go or the object will break. And so that is kind of a layered metaphor for these struggles that we have in life and with all of the chaos that's happening and all the insanity, because it's completely insane. We either allow it to we let go and we allow it to transform us into a greater version of ourselves that's capable of meeting head on. Nature calls for balance. It always everything seeks a level. And you can call it cope if you want, but it doesn't change the fact that it's true that all of this is a call for us to rise to a greater level of strength instead of but we can allow it to break us. We could do that too. But there's nowhere to go if you pick that. There's no advantage to doing that. And then the other side, there's at least the possibility where even if you fail to master yourself, self-mastery is the hardest thing that you can ever do. That's what it means when the scripture talks about, it's not the only thing, but it's part of what it means when it talks about going from glory to glory, or being continuously conformed to the image of the Son. The Son is the perfect image of the Father, that is the reflection of divinity. So how do I get there? Well, the answer is not all at once. And he said that
What? Hang on. I can't watch a YouTube video and then it
Yeah.
suddenly like what? No,
You can't
seriously?
watch the news and get there. It's in the still small voice. It's in meditation, it's in prayer, it's in nature.
It's
Okay,
in
that's where
community.
it's in community.
It's in
Sure.
conversation. It's in debate.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm And it's the hardest pardon my French, it's the hardest damn thing you can do in your life. But if you're on the ride and you're committed, the train doesn't stop, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing because you will get to a place where you're you start to value the things that matter. And even as there's less and less of you, there's more and more within you. I know that sounds like a like a Zen logic puzzle or something, right? What is the sound of one hand clapping? But all I can say is that that's that liminal space of experience in life. And that's the enchantment and the mysticism that's always there. And we just either choose to recognize it or we say, no, 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 show me the study. Show me the study. If you want that religion and that narrowed perspective, you can have it. And most people in our culture, at least, choose that because it gives them comfort because they're anxious all the time. But if you'll step with courage out into that mystery, into the areas of, I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not really sure how to adapt to that, but I'm willing to step into the flow of providence and see where it will take me, and I'm willing to say yes when I'm tested. Then you'll get to places that you didn't think and that you would ever get. And it'll be in here and then it will be out there. First in here and then it's out there. This is the temple, and that's what it influences. So
All right.
I think I'm
Like I'm
good.
going to end you right there because that's such a great way to end the whole podcast. Like, boys and girls, stay tuned. We're looking at doing a Sunday type of thing. You know, I'm not just picking on Ground Fog or anybody else, but like if that's what you're interested in, because that's what I'm interested in. Like, you know, and but Blackbeard, you just like you were at like the home run derby and you just kept hitting dingers the whole time. You know, you weren't getting tired. That was awesome what you just put out there. I hope everybody, you know, just takes it to heart. You know, like you don't have to believe, again, you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to believe in, you know, my God, but just take a step back and like, and then put that into the context of they hate you. And then realize, you know, these are two dichotomic, you know, these are two diametrically opposed perspectives. One is, you know, like, but wow. Okay. See, I'm doing the Minnesota goodbye. I'm going to stop right there. Blackbeard, final comments, and then we're going to wrap it up and take us out there, sir.
I'm talking to myself when I say this, okay? And this is the last thing that I'm going to say, and then I'm going.
Well, no, we're going to do an after action review, so
Okay,
you're
well,
not
we'll do
quite
an
out
after
of here
action
yet.
review.
Yep.
But
Okay.
it's this. It's that they hate you. Can I be the person who is hated, who's mistreated, and can I be the person who says, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing? Do I want to be that person? See, it all comes down to what you value. Don't store up your treasures here, where if you know material things will break down, rust will decay it, and the moths will eat it. You know, in other words, it's transient, and it was always just an illusion. But store up your treasures in heaven, where things are eternal and they're grounded in something that provides meaning to everything else, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So if our heart is in these things that they want us to focus on because everything is shit, you know, then our treasure becomes shit. And I'd rather have valuable treasure, Mark. I'm a pirate. I'm about treasure, baby.
I was wondering if you were going to bring the pirate theme into that. That was very well done, sir. I really liked that. That was good. I knew there had to have been like, I'm a pirate, you know, something. All right. Hey, boys and girls, hats off to Patrick, who left a little while ago, household 6. He had shit to do. Just, you know, big thanks for him being on here. We didn't have Tom on tonight. Just is what it is. I don't know what happened there, but we'll have Tom back on. We'll talk about more specifically the VA. He had a lot of great points for anybody who's a veteran. And then, as you know, bring on Chappie, another veteran, another great human being. So, you know, just stay tuned with that. Thanks again to Blackbeard for just sharing. You know, you can say wisdom, but like I want to call it perspective, right? You know, because you know, you may disagree with some things that he says, but gosh dang it, doesn't it make you kind of think? Right. And that was the whole point of tonight, right? They hate you, but that doesn't mean it's over, right? There are options, there are recourses, there are other things that you and I can do together as human beings in our, you know, from across the pond or in our same communities that can make an influence in another person's life in another community. And that's worthwhile. And I hope that was part of your takeaway from tonight. Blackbeard, before I just do the final comment from you.
Good night.
Very succinct. Yeah, he is a pirate. I actually thought it was going to be more swashbuckling, but that was very succinct. Pirates usually aren't succinct. They're more verbose and flourishes and stuff like that, but we'll just take it. All right. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. Again, final little housekeeping thing. Next week, I'm not doing any live social media. So no Loadout Live on Monday next week. No CLS After Dark next week. Just kind of part of this whole conversation we had. I'm going to take a break. I've got some other videos I'll post up though. So I'll post that stuff up. Take a break, take a step back, refocused, and then, you know, figure out what the next direction is going forward. But there is some pretty serious conversation between, you know, Blackbeard, Learn Me Something, myself. We're going to probably end up doing a Sunday thing. So just stay tuned. We'll see you on, I think that's Monday the 7th of April. That's when I'll come back on. And that's going to be a Millstone Monday with Blake, another great human being. He wanted to be here tonight, but oh, what's his excuse? He's got a newborn child, a wife, and, you know, like, you know, whatever. But, you know, let's throw him under the bus because he's not here. But he'll be here. And we probably have some things for Millstone that we're going to share with you guys on that. If you guys got questions, comments, and I mean it very seriously, if you're a veteran or if you've got somebody who's thinking about the military, I am always available as a sounding board. I've got my bias. I'll throw that out there. We all do. But, you know, I'll tell the truth. I mean, we just already did tonight. So Blackbeard, again, huge shout out to you. Thank you. And then I love the fact that you figured out how to get, like, you know, a piratey thing in the background. Boys and girls, he doesn't get paid, you know, for any of this stuff. You know, he took the time to try to figure out how to make it more piratey.
I don't get paid. And look at how expensive do you think that those chandeliers were?
Those chandeliers cost you a lot of money, bro.
Those are real wood beams right there. Do you know what the price of lumber is right now?
Yeah, beyond mentioning. All right, and then thanks to everybody in the chat. We see some comments coming in. Learn Me Something has made some comments. Ground Fog's made you know, well, you guys have all made, you know, but like Gene, you know, as always, Ground Fog, Husky Bunch, Snowshoe Dave. Actually, we're gonna end it on this right here, the Redbeard. I was just kind of skimming through it. You know, thanks for the informative, interesting evening. God bless you guys. Keep calling out evil. And then Gene said this about you. He does not get paid. He just plunders.
Well said. Well said.
I like
Gene.
that. Thank you, Gene. You know, all right. All right, everybody. Reach out if you got questions, comments. You know the deal. Do the best that can help you out. This is CLS After Dark. We're just like the drug. You don't know how long it's going to last. Well, tonight, 2.5 hours is what we're pretty much at. So thanks for taking the time out of your busy lives, your schedules, spending it with us. Again, no lives at all next week. We'll see you again on Monday, the 7th of April for a Millstone Monday. Until then, keep thinking. Gene, get him ready. Get him ready with a big woo, brother. Keep thinking. Keep moving. Never quit. All right, everybody, be good. We'll see you Monday, the 7th of April, Millstone Monday. Until then, woo!